the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David SMOAK and Craig SMOAK.
Sports, the SMOAK Show. We hope you've had a really, really good day. David SMOAK, we're on. Craig SMOAK as well. And yes, the Brendan Sorsby story continues to dominate most of the day, especially when it comes to not just college football, but the possibility of, is he available or can he get into the supplemental draft? We got a couple of notes on that, if you will. Craig SMOAK, think you feeling better?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Can actually breathe deeply without turning into a coughing fit. And actually, I was able to sleep through most of the night for the first time in a couple of days. So,
I got a question. I got a question for you, and this is for the chat. I haven't even looked in the chat yet, which sometimes I try not to and let you guys just go rampant, but I will. What part of your body do you seem to cut the most? Nicks, cuts, slices? I say that because for me, it's like my hands, no matter what. And so I'm getting ready to leave the condo, and I don't know what it was. It's like those little pins that you put in sometimes those old boards where you could stick up a piece of paper and put the pin in. And damned if I didn't hit myself right in the thumb and start bleeding to death. But I don't do that to my arms, my knees, or anything else. It just seems to get me in my fingers, and it never seems to ever end. So hopefully you don't have that same problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is how Sports Center should lead off its show tonight. It's fascinating, but no, I'm feeling better. I'm sorry that you cut yourself a lot, but yeah, I can't relate to that, unfortunately.
I'm just trying to get part of the day as a human being, but I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better because Monday I worried about you. And you were struggling quite a bit.
Your audio on your laptop's on.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Now, I sent out a text to two guys that I know cover Cincinnati Bearcats athletics. One of them was just a simple, so tell me, what did you know? What did you know? Or was this even on the radar? And again, whatever I'm going to show you, I'll tell you what he said to me. And then, like, if you're a Tech fan, you go, oh, bullshit, or not the case. This is the guy that I have a lot of trust in. I said, so good morning. Sorsby's story is out of the blue for you or something that was just a matter of time. And he said, totally off guard. Now, there's that thought that Cincinnati knew. In fact, there's even been some stories about that they may have known about this in August, and Sorsby still played last year. For him, I believe him because he doesn't have anything to gain from saying, oh, yeah, I think he would tell me the truth. So that's from somebody that covers Cincinnati. I know that not everybody may feel that way. So I hope that's the case, but I got a feeling at least on campus there might have been some murmuring and maybe a little smoke.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that they were pretty caught off guard by it. And, I mean, that's one of the parts of the story that we're going to find out as they get deeper into kind of peeling back the layers of it is what did Cincinnati know? I don't think there's some great smoking gun. I don't think it takes anything away from the story that matters to me, which is Brendan Sorsby's eligibility. I'm not out here trying to go, well, can't wait till they bust Cincinnati. I mean, if they do because there's a valid reason to, then okay, they deserve it. If they don't because there's not a valid reason to, then okay, we know that was just a lot of finger pointing by people trying to deflect from Texas Tech, even though Tech's not the bad guy here. No. But because I guess Brendan Sorsby now is trying to wear a Tech uniform, Tech fans want to pass the buck on Brendan Sorsby, which brings me back to what I said yesterday when you had that quote from some rando psychologist or whatever it was about how this isn't Brendan Sorsby's fault. This is the state of affairs. And it's like, no, it's, yeah, we've had gambling shoved down our throats. And there's Kalshi ads and BetMGM ads next to the Sports Center anchor while they talk about this story, next to the On3 podcaster while they talk about this story, and so on and so forth.
The logo in the bottom of the screen, yeah.
Yeah, the logo next to the people while they talk about this story, like I was saying. And so, yeah, there's a double standard here. And I think that for me, the the gambling issue is a real legitimate issue, but I think ultimately this is Brendan Sorsby's fault and no one else's. Nobody put the money in his hand or the phone in his hand and downloaded the apps and said, you must bet balls and strikes. You must bet UFC. You must bet on Indiana while you're playing there. He's grown enough to be a millionaire and to be making decisions on where he wants to play and go to school. And eventually when he decides to enter the NFL draft, although now eligibility-wise, he has no more decisions to make, except for now he kind of does because he has an unexpected decision to make. But he was going to graduate from college or move on from college next year anyways. I think he's grown enough to make all these decisions. He's grown enough to know what he was doing. Maybe he wasn't totally up on the laws, although we hear schools say that they educate these guys on that for this very reason. So I don't know, man. I think the pointing fingers at Cincinnati, if you're just hoping they get bit by the NCAA, then okay, I can understand where you're coming from. But to think that it's in any way taking the heat off of Brendan Sorsby, I just don't agree with that whatsoever.
No, I don't either. It's Brendan Sorsby, who has allegedly made thousands. In fact, I saw a number in one of the articles that I read today. I read several of them. There's like 10,000. Again, that's just a part of a report. So here's what Trey Wallace had to say on the story. There are currently multiple layers to this case. The most important being his eligibility, which is what Craig, you said, investigating whether he placed bets on the outcome of games even while at Indiana, which we've seen reported as well. However, there is even the possibility that as many as 7 states are now conducting parts of an investigation to find out whether Brendan Sorsby gambled in their states, whether he was on the road or what. And so that's now a new layer that is a part of this story. And of course, it all comes down to every story I've read, no matter who you are, if he bet on a team that he was a member of, whether he played or not, redshirt or not, sat the bench or started or not, if you do that, then 99.9% of the time, your eligibility is over.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the most firmly established point of this entire thing is that you don't bet on your own team. I mean, I think that almost is just like the top thing that you walk away with from this. And we've had examples, Hunter Decker's Iowa State, Iowa, all that earlier, although that took a different turn than people expected in the end because of the way that those investigations were conducted. That was just a big, giant mess. But, yeah, you don't bet on your own team. It's really simple. And I don't know about the multiple states thing. I do know that in the case of, I think when he was placing bets at Indiana, I believe it's the part that I read that he would have been underage. So there's that. And, yeah, there's just a lot of different things that he might have done that break multiple rules. I don't think he's facing jail time or anything along those lines, but there's a lot to figure out here. And I'm fascinated to hear more details on all different parts of this, whether it's the Cincinnati implication and they deserve to be punished or they end up in the crosshairs themselves. Were they the ones that tattled on him ultimately? I don't believe that necessarily myself, but I can see why people do, and maybe I'll be proven wrong in that regard. What are the details of the bets? I mean, I know we've seen they're in the thousands, they're microtransactions, they're baseball games and things like that, but what are the depths of it? And I mean, I guess the big thing is that, yeah, he bet on Indiana, but I don't see anything else about college football games besides that. I haven't seen a single report of him betting on college football outside of Indiana that one year.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a part that's interesting because maybe you can see where they would try to fight this thing of like, okay, well, it was 4 years ago. He played that year, but he wasn't playing in that game. It was one time. Now, it doesn't explain betting on baseball and how that's still against the rules or some of the other things like the underage betting, which I think all of that could end up adding to a pile that just is the pile that determines like, all right, you have a couple of excuses that actually like, okay, we can kind of see where you're coming from there, but this pile is this big and this is the bad pile. And so, yeah, sorry, pal. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers to this story. I know that Cincinnati fans probably would like it to go away at this point because they go from just this legal battle off to the side to now being like, damn, do we got to watch out like about how we conducted ourselves with this whole thing. And then Texas Tech seemingly out of nowhere just gets kicked in the gut when they're riding as high as any athletic department in the country and everything's going so swell. And now this curveball's thrown their way. Now I think BYU proved last year that you can change quarterbacks and be okay. Now the difference is they can't go get Bear Bachmeier. They got to rely on the guys that they have on campus. Now, they could go get Bear Bachmeier, but as I said in a separate video, the recent smoke break I did where I just outlined a bunch of different points that I thought were interesting about this story, I just think it was such a bad example for everybody in that quarterback room that you brought in and recruited to say, like, hey, I know there's like 4 of you guys, including a transfer from Tulsa, but hey, we're going to suspend Joey. We're going to get Joey McGuire intentionally suspended for half a season. And we're going to pay millions of dollars in fines because we don't believe any of you guys can carry us, that we need to go like break rules to go grab the quarterback from Oregon or whatever. I don't think that would be.
There is one at Oregon that is waiting to play, but that I know you're
probably
saying.
has fantasized about wearing a Texas Tech uniform and what that would look like. I would gamble, but
he gets to go play for Patrick Mahomes' team.
Yeah, I think that we know who we're talking about here. Everybody knows, but. If you wanted to go and do that, I just think it would send a bad message to your quarterback room. And I also think it would be a bad precedent to set for a guy. And this is part of the video. This is like one of the 6 different things I touch on the smoke break. But the other part is, how are you going to sit there and say you want to save college sports, and then you would go out and pay millions of dollars and have your head coach intentionally miss half the season to go and break a rule of like not ghost transfers, but of the post-spring transfers, still got some of that sickness. And you would do all that and go grab Dylan Raiola or whoever, and then turn around and go, college sports is in a bad place. Here's why. It's like,
well, you're pointing that as if Cody Campbell would be the one that does it, right?
Well, yeah, because of course he would be involved in that if they were to do something like that. No. And even if it wasn't him necessarily doing it, he would have the wits to know that it was going on, and he would know that Dusty Womble or whoever was doing that. And I think it would be a bad look that whether he was involved or not, you would go, not everybody out there who's like a Syracuse fan is going, oh, no, yeah, Texas Tech's doing that, but it's not Cody Campbell, guys. No, they're not going to think about it that deeply.
And I get it, but we're bringing him into it. And by the way, I note on him in a minute, but he's not that dumb. He might have a lot of money, and Tech can go out and do what they want, but he's not going to do that.
Which is exactly my point.
That's what I want to make. I just was agreeing with you.
Yeah, I know sometimes I bring up Cody Campbell and people get like defensive for some weird reason. What I'm saying is I think he's too smart for the people that want to get defensive to go and do all those things to put himself in that situation where it would just be a bad look. First of all, to your quarterback room, and ultimately to your greater message. So yeah, I don't think that's worth the risk. So they're in a pickle, and we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of interesting layers from the Tech side of things to the just overall story in general and its ramifications that are still going to be unpacked here over the next few weeks.
One of the things about Sorsby as well, that we're going to get into what can he do with the NFL in just a second. 10,000 has been a number about bets, 20 a day at some point, using all the various gambling apps from Hard Rock Bet, MGM. I can say that. It's hard for me to say that. DraftKings, Prize Picks, and Bet 365. That has nothing to do with the Smoke Show and 365 Sports. So here's something that's interesting. Albert Breer, who covers the NFL, one of the best writers covering the NFL, went around or asked some of the personnel people in the NFL what they thought about Brendan Sorsby just as a talent. From arm talent standpoint, some of the stuff he does with his arm is similar, and I hate to say it, as you know, I hate to make this comparison to Patrick Mahomes and Caleb Williams, but he has that twitch, the arm angles of Matthew Stafford. His arm is electric. It would have been by far the best in this class. As a thrower, his arm would be right on top of the league. And then also this one, the guy's pretty good. He would have had a good chance of being right there with Fernando Mendoza. Just from the limited tape I saw, he looked better than Ty Simpson in comparison to the draft they just had of what they think of Brendan Sorsby. Now, also this one. This is Jonathan Jones. He works for CBS Insider. You want to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a really good player, and I think that I see some people that say that he's a little bit overrated or whatever, and I disagree. I see everybody cite the same game. It's the Nebraska game, and yeah, that was a bad game ultimately. He threw a bad interception at the end of that game, but they were also in position to win that game, in part because of him. He's not perfect. No quarterback really is. But I think you put him in the right situation with a really talented defense. It's like the Josh Hoover Indiana thing. Sonny Dykes is like, well, Josh Hoover turned the ball over, and Kurt Cignetti goes, he's about to meet his best friends, the running game and like a good defense. And I think without question, and I don't poo-poo on Cincinnati the way some other people do, but yeah, he was going to have a talent elevation and better probably weapons and defense around him to some degree than at Cincinnati. So that would push him to, I think, a different level and that team to a different level overall. And so, yeah, I think that he's a guy that is legitimately a top prospect type. And I think that if you just want to go based on Nebraska, then sure. But there's a lot more to it than just one game. And that's the one game I always see as an example. Now, there are other examples. He is not perfect by any means, but I do think he's a really solid player and certainly a guy that you throw into that mix for 27 quarterbacks. So I guess there's at least a couple scouts that agree.
His talent also put him in a position to be a part of that game on that last drive before he threw the fade down the sideline near the end zone that was intercepted. Jonathan Jones is a CBS Sports insider. He was on with Jenny Dial earlier today, and this is about a minute 50 seconds of Jonathan Jones explaining Sorsby and the NFL and the possibility of a supplemental draft, which has not been done since 2019.
Could be ruled eventually ineligible at the end of this probe based off of the early reporting. What I can tell you about the NFL, there is the supplemental draft. A lot of people don't know much about it. It's this weird thing. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It typically takes place at some point in June. It is reserved for players who may or may not have been eligible for that April's draft, but then all of a sudden they lose their eligibility in college and they say, well, what do? Let's try to go to the NFL via the supplemental draft. Now, a lot of times that is for a player who was ruled academically ineligible. Maybe there was some sort of hardship. It's always murky. It's always really particular. But in this case, Brendan Sorsby, if he wanted to apply to the NFL for the supplemental draft, folks I talked to believe that he would not be approved. And so the supplemental draft seems like an extremely unlikely pathway for Brendan Sorsby this summer. And here's why. The NFL is obviously very hard on those who gamble on NFL games. And while he is not in the NFL right now and he would not be up against those rules, if you are in the NFL and you do bet on your team, again, win or lose, you are banned at a minimum of 2 years. That's how seriously the league takes this. And so let's play this out where over the next 2 or so months, the NCAA ultimately rules him ineligible. Then he could apply for the supplemental draft. And the NFL gets to decide whether they allow him into the supplemental draft. Then a team has to determine whether they would take Brendan Sorsby. With all of this happening, I had one high-ranking team executive tell me on Monday that he's frankly untouchable right now. So plenty more to figure out. But this idea that, oh, he can just bypass any sort of punishment from the NCAA and go to the NFL, that doesn't seem like reality right now.
All right, that's Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports insider. I've read, I've seen, I've heard, and even myself, but 2019 was the last time. Used to be more of a thing. And I thought he did the best job of explaining the options and or probably no matter what, there will not be an option.
Yeah, he did a good job of laying it all out there because it's not something that a lot of people are familiar with because it's not ever used or widely talked about. And this is probably more coverage of the supplemental draft in the last 24 to 48 hours than it's received in 24, 48 months for certain. So I think, to kind of go ahead and shut that down as an avenue and explain why is a really valuable thing and kind of peeling back the layers on this. Again, I think the story is very interesting because of the high-profile nature of it, the fact that it's a guy who is a centerpiece of a really good team heading into next year, a team that's probably starting the year top 10 with him as their quarterback, and now will probably still be top 25, but maybe not top 10 as a result of that. A long way to go. I'm sure we're going to have like 5 Will Hammond updates before we actually get to the season, and who knows what Tech tries to go and do. As I was trying to explain earlier, I mean, they do have some options, but they're not, in my opinion, realistic because they leave Tech looking terrible on the other side, and not even just Cody Campbell. So let me So let's just take Cody Campbell out of it. If Tech decides we're going to get Joey McGuire suspended for 6 games and we're going to pay millions of dollars in fines to go break this rule, to go get somebody else's quarterback, how can they then, as an entity, turn around and talk about college sports and the sanctity?
I know what you were saying.
That's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that they would be willing to risk that. There's only so many options out there. But for Brendan Sorsby, he's got a couple. It just doesn't appear the supplemental draft is one of those.
One of the other things one more note about the supplemental draft, Sorsby would have to be declared ineligible by June. Now, you may say, okay, that's not that far from now. We're talking May 1st is on Friday. Not sure how long this takes, if maybe longer than that, especially if it does get tied up in anything as far as in the courts. Then he would apply for the NFL, and then the league would have to approve him, which is what Jonathan Jones said as far as how he would get in it. But to get in it, he would have to be declared ineligible for that reason by June.
So I've seen everybody make the jokes, and I even mentioned it earlier about while I'm talking, you have like the Kalshi logo next to my face while I'm talking about how bad Brendan Sorsby is or whatever, or Sports Center anchors, and all of a sudden they realize on the bottom line while they're talking about this story, it says ESPN Bet, and all of a sudden the screen goes black, which I've seen a couple examples. I haven't caught that live myself, so I'm hoping that's not something that somebody made up, but it is like the irony of that. I do think it's funny too to think about all of the money that's pouring into the leagues themselves. We haven't seen college football get fully in bed, but that seems like they're just trying to figure out how they can probably make that happen, because what a revenue generator that would further be at a time when all they're doing is trying to find every way to open up more money lanes. They're at a weird place where gambling is anti everything they're supposed to be about. But at the same time, wanting money more than they've ever wanted it before. And they've always really, really wanted money. So that says something. But the fact that NFL teams who are so deep in bed with the gambling sites at this point are like, ew, gross, like you're untouchable. That tells you, man, that the integrity of the game still matters, and that talent doesn't trump everything. And that, there are going to be a lot of tough questions for him. And he can't just be like, well, I was going to be a really great quarterback at Tech, and then this happened, so I'm just going to go off the NFL. It's like, no, the NFL teams now are going to side-eye you, and there's going to be some deep background checks, I would imagine, and he's going to be heavily, heavily scrutinized over the next year, and more so than probably any other prospect in the draft because of this. So it's interesting to hear him lay it out that he's not untouchable, but that he's like radioactive right now when it comes to his perception from NFL teams.
Well, one of the things you mentioned, Cody Campbell, this was something last night. So, Rez, go ahead and put up. This is Cody Campbell's response. Now, leave that up. Now, you see where it says the post is unavailable. Well, the post was from the college football portal, which puts out usually some pretty good information. But this is what they put out there. New. That's like breaking. Texas Tech's primary investor, Cody Campbell, is reportedly funding a $1 million PR campaign to push claims that Cincinnati was aware of Sorsby's gambling situation. Campbell is actively funding news outlets and Twitter accounts to amplify his narrative. And that's Cody's response. Nope, I'm absolutely not. And if you're going to just make stuff up, at least use a better picture of me. It was a picture of Cody Campbell that it was not as he liked, not as much as maybe the one you see right there with him in the sports jacket. So there he was with that.
I almost wish he didn't have fun with it at the end, although I can understand wanting to be lighthearted about the whole situation. And it wasn't a terrible picture based on what I saw. That's absolute garbage from that account, though. Like, screw that account, man. That's just just read what you just read that they just made up entirely to throw out read what you just like. This isn't, guys.
And that's where you got to be careful. It's not because if a guy has 150 or 150,000 followers, but
no, hold on.
You told me to read it.
I know. Hold on. Let me explain it for a second. There is this account who is completely fabricating this, not saying like, hey, there's a rumor that Cody Campbell's doing la-di-da and just leaving it at that. This is how deep they're going into just making something up.
Texas Tech's primary investor, Cody Campbell, is reportedly funding a $1 million PR campaign to push claims that Cincinnati was aware of Sorsby's gambling situation. Campbell is actively funding news outlets, which means he's trying to buy them off, and Twitter accounts to amplify his narrative, or this narrative, which is the narrative that this account is saying that Campbell is trying to start a PR campaign, and the fact that Cody probably didn't just like leave it alone, and he responded to it because it was such crap. And there's a lot of these type of accounts, of course, that sometimes steal or copy and paste what other people have already reported and make it look like it's their own.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's that goes on with all sorts of things. I just think to go to that extent to make up that deep of just an outright lie is just despicable behavior.
20,000 followers.
Despicable behavior. And congrats on your 2 dimes that you made from the clicks on that tweet. But that's garbage. That is absolute utter garbage, which is what you have to sort through on Twitter in particular a lot of times these days. But social media in general, people are conditioned enough to normally know better. But like I just cannot believe the depths of the storytelling there, to not just lie, but to have like multiple layers of a lie, to paint them to look as badly as possible, that they're orchestrating an entire ad campaign that they're paying $1 million. Like, F you, dude. Like, whoever runs that account, that is garbage. You can be so much better than that and still get whatever you get from Twitter on a monthly basis. But that, like, no one should be okay with that kind of line. Like, it's one thing to clickbait. I don't love that necessarily. Especially don't love when people lie about the fact that they clickbait when they clearly clickbait. I don't necessarily love everybody's approach to kind of how they go about certain things, like kind of being deceptive in a way, but I understand it. And I understand that that's just like the choice that you make. To just make up a story like that that's just garbage,
not over
man.
Yet. Here's another thing. So the account deleted the post, as you saw. It's no longer available. Then took a Cody Campbell nothing beats a guy paying for an ad just to prove he's not paying for ads. But up in the right-hand corner, he changed the picture that had Cody Campbell with the top right corner where it says ad, because you can get that on Twitter. And he got roasted again. He now, as far as I'm concerned, done. You've lost all your integrity for what you tried to do, and then you doubled down on it like a dumbass. I
mean, that's why they're faceless and nameless, and you can pull things like that when you don't have any accountability whatsoever. So, yeah, I'm not out here trying to be old man Twitter police or whatever. I just think to go to that length to try to get a little bit of attention is just pathetic, and there's a lot of other things that you don't have to just totally fabricate that can still get you your attention. But yeah, that's a step too far for me.
We will have James Wesling from Big 12 Radio on TuneIn today. We'll have Tim Brando. He'll have a lot to say about that and more. And then also today, John Cooper, looking back, summarizing the NFL draft. There's still a few nuggets from that we need to get to. How about TJ Otzelberger? How about him? Remember, people were coming after him. North Carolina said no. He is now among the top 10 highest paid coaches in America, signing a 10-year extension. Will pay about $6 million annually. He's now under contract. Well, that's a long time from now, 2036, 10 years from now. Great guy. His wife's in the Iowa State Hall of Fame. He's done an incredible job. Iowa State, a lot of times you wonder if they could keep up. They are when it comes to TJ Otzelberger. Good for Jamie Pollard and ISU to keep him.
Yeah, I don't think there was really much of a question. I mean, the guy turned down North Carolina interest to stay at Iowa State before he got a new contract. I'm sure he had some contract details discussed, the fact that they would go and re-examine it, and he had those assurances. But, yeah, good for him. He's a tremendous fit in Ames. He's done a great job with that program, and they had a great year, and they're in a really good place as far as keeping up momentum and building on what has already been built there. So, yeah, I think he's very deserving. And Iowa State's got their basketball version of Matt Campbell, like as far as a guy who's going to be there, I think, for a long time to build something up. And I don't think you necessarily worry about him going and taking the Penn State job however many years from now. But I do think you're going to have to play defense like you did with Matt Campbell for probably every other, at least off season, because yeah, he's going to be a guy at the top of most people's best coaches list. And so every time a big job opens up, I think they're going to look TJ Otzelberger's way. But with the current situation, I feel like Iowa State can be happy and also just continue to enjoy what he's building, because it does appear like he's planting his roots and is planning on being there for a while.
Also, one other basketball note, and KU, they had Darren Peterson. Obviously, he's going to be in the draft. Now they have Tyron Stokes, the number 1 overall player in the country. He's a small forward. He also is projected to be the number 1 overall pick at this time for the 2027 NBA draft. So a one and done. He made the commitment. Oregon, Kentucky were a part of the mix, and he chose Bill Self and the Jayhawks. So a great pickup to replace the number 1 player leading into last season with the number 1 player headed into 2026.
Yeah, a guy who's widely been talked about and mocked as the number 1 overall pick in the draft next year. So really good player. And Kansas, an absolute factory of winning games, winning titles, and also putting guys in the pros. So, Tyron Stokes choosing the Jayhawks seems like a pretty good choice from his point of view. Not too many times that's a bad choice for really high-level players, and certainly exciting for Bill Self and company after what was a bit of a year where just way too much was swirling around Darren Peterson for that season to be fully enjoyable, and way too much about Self's health. And that's first and foremost the concern, of course. But you had all of that, then just question marks about, is he even going to still be coaching next year? And so hopefully they can get to a place where last year's a little bit less dramatic, and there's not so many just things swirling as there was this past season, when it just felt like there was a lot of talk about the off the court, not as much on the court, even though the on the court was still pretty good at times. So curious what the future holds for them. But as far as the future of their talent and their roster, this is a really good addition.
We have another part of a basketball segment, and it's about the tournament, and then a couple of other nuggets, and then a couple of responses about how the NCAA claims they're not out to make a bunch of money, and why do you think they're expanding the tournament? Matt Norlander, NCAA to expand March Madness, both the men's and women's tournament. We knew that yesterday at the end of the show. In fact, we mentioned it. 76 teams. There's going to be, instead of 4 play-in games, there's going to be 24 teams in the play-in to get down to 12 that then would join the rest of the tournament. So that's happening. We knew it would. I love what he said in the I love what he said. No one wanted this that he could think of. And Matt Norlander is a part of college basketball coverage all the time. Absolutely not many people. I know commissioners or whatever, but I don't know of any basketball fan that wanted the expansion to 76 teams. And here we are with that. Now, before you respond, one of the teams that would have benefited last year was Oklahoma. Auburn. Stephen Pearl, I'm so proud of him, unless I misread this. Stephen Pearl from Auburn told Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik this. It also makes the bubble a little bit weaker when teams like us, who had 16 losses, are able to get into the tournament. Now, this is Pearl on Auburn, where he coached. I'm not so sure that really rewards the best 68, now 76. He said it could be a positive as long as not all 8 teams are going to be from the power conferences, the Power 4 in football, Power 5 in basketball, but it includes the Big East. I hope high majors are also a part of that mix.
We'll see. I don't have a lot of confidence.
Mid-majors, excuse me.
I don't have a lot of confidence that that'll be the case, but we'll see. I can't say anything definitively. No one can say anything definitively right now. We can just go based off history, and history says that, the bigger, more powerful, richer schools are probably going to get the benefit of the doubt more because they're bigger with bigger fan bases, and ultimately this is a TV thing, and you want bigger ratings. So I don't think you're getting the mid-major over Oklahoma or Texas or whoever. So based on everybody that I've seen and the people that I actually respect their opinions and their thoughts on college basketball, this is pretty unanimously based on Wesling, actually unanimously against them expanding the tournament. There's people that I have seen that are for it, and not unanimously, but pretty close to it. They all love gambling. So there you go. I think that's the crowd that you're seeing. There's the basketball crowd that just loves the tournament the way that it is, thinks it's the best thing in the world as far as determining a champion, or just love the way it's currently set up, and have an appetite for some play-ins, but also the bubble has to matter. Like winning games has to matter, not just everybody gets a free prize. And so from that standpoint, I think they don't like it and don't want it to expand any further. But for those who just want more games to bet on, they love it because, hey, who cares about the structure of the tournament? Who cares about whether these teams deserve it or not? I can now add Auburn versus Long Island's play-in game to my 14 parlay. That's the crowds that I saw. The betting side that like, hey, more games, more bets, and then the love college basketball and don't care about the gambling like this sucks for college basketball. Yep. So I'm definitely in the crowd of I don't like it. I think it's a total money grab. I think to say anything otherwise is absolutely a lie and foolish, and I don't believe any other thing other than it's a money grab.
He is a tenured law professor at Fulbright Scholar, also Mark Edelman. He's a legal mind. He's one of the guys I've started following. So this is a tweet from him. Charlie Baker, head of the NCAA, to Congress. Give us labor and antitrust exemptions. We are special and not revenue maximizing enterprise. And yet they just increased the tournament, midweek road trips, TV revenue, all of the things that go with it. And why did they do that? Because more guys get to have a chance to win a ribbon? No, because they're going to make a lot more money. In what is, I think, the second most valuable TV contract in college sports outside of what, of course, is college football.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think they're going to lose any fans based on doing it. I don't think somebody's going to go, oh, well, the tournament's bigger now, like I'm not going to watch anymore. I don't think that's going to be the case. So I don't think it's harmful in that way. I just think it brings like the mystery of who makes the tournament down quite a bit. The bubble teams are just now even lower than they were to begin with. And maybe you still feel like they're deserving, but I don't know, that conversation from last year about Auburn and Oklahoma and Texas and all those teams, like they're all in now. They're just all in. They didn't deserve it before, but now they're all in the tournament. So there's 3 more SEC teams, or I guess it would have been 2 more, right? Because Oklahoma and Auburn didn't make it, but there's 2 more SEC teams that are now in the tournament. So, yeah, I bet Greg Sankey does love this idea. I bet anybody else in his position or other examples like that would love this idea. I bet coaches love this idea because guess what? Now I made the tournament 10 years in a row.
Yep.
Well, yeah, now there's nearly 80 damn teams that make it. So I would hope if you're a power coach that you made the tournament. I mean, my God.
Used to get a bonus for that and probably still do.
If you're not making the tournament when there's that many teams allowed, like what are you even doing? So, yeah, for all the people in power, they get the same looking resume, but with less of a bar to cross. So, yeah, good for the money people. As always, they got what they wanted, but the fans, they don't give a damn what the fans think. And the NCAA has proven that, I think, several times here as of late.
James Wesling, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn will join us. Then Tim Brando, full of fire and also opinions. He'll join us at 4. And then at the end, John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. We'll have the wheel, quizzes, and the poll. We do appreciate you. If you're in the chat or watching us, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. I'm David Smoke with Craig Smoke, the Smoke Show on 365 Sports. QC Kinetics changed my life. It's given me, I ran this morning, did a workout this morning, but last night as I'm on my way home, I get a text from a guy that's in the broadcast business. I hadn't talked to Grant Merrill in a while. I think I appeared on a couple of his shows when he was in Arkansas. Smokey, I was thrilled today when I heard your QC Kinetics commercial up here in Tulsa. Sound great on KRMG. Hope you and the family are doing well. Of course, you could share this with the marketing team, and you're damn right I did. Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it. Jennifer Smoke sent me a text with someone she knows that heard me on a station in Dallas with the QC Kinetics endorsement because, man, it has worked. QC Kinetics with the numbers on the screen with locations in Dallas and Houston, 972-972-8610, 713-913-5285. My back's got all sorts of gnarly stuff in it, but what it was creating was my hip was flaring up like arthritis, a numbing type of throbbing pain. Hadn't run in 4.5 to 5 years. Just never felt like really doing anything intense. Even affected me at times with my golf swing, or at least I could use that as an excuse. And then I went to QC Kinetics in Dallas, got a self-consultation, a free consultation, and started getting treatment. They take what is inside of my body, my natural biologics or yours, blood, plasma, platelets, stem cells. Spin it and put it back in your body where you have the pain. It could be your shoulders, your elbows, your wrist or knees, or in my case, it was in my back, but also in my hip. And now I feel great. Running for the first time the last, 6 weeks? First time in 4.5 years. So if you have been kicking the can down the road with injections that aren't working for more than 2 or 3 weeks, if that long, contact free consultation, qckinetics.com.
Walker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
We're celebrating the declaration of deals at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. Cash in on $11,000 off a new Ram 2500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or choose 0% for 36 months, plus no payments for 90 days. Feel secure with America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Extreme Texas weather calls for Ray Broker, your Lennox Premier dealer. Sign up for our year-round comfort plan and keep your home the perfect temperature no matter what the forecast is. Call or visit raybroker.com now. Ray Broker, your air conditioning and heating specialist.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
And here we are as we head into the last part of the 3 o'clock hour. James Wesling, a Big 12 radio on TuneIn. TuneIn Radio with Ari Temkin, also ESPN, NBC, play-by-play, and more. James, thanks for your time with Craig and David on the Smoke Show in 365 Sports. How much have you been talking Brendan Sorsby and all the different ramifications and even angles to this story?
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on, and never a dull moment in the Big 12 Conference. So we've been discussing that situation at length the last 48 hours. It was shocking to see that email release from Texas Tech, and then just kind of unpacking everything that's going on with the star quarterback. You know, there's a lot of unanswered questions. There are a lot of layers to the situation. And then there's a lot to think about when it comes to the future of Texas Tech and Big 12 championship projections. And what does this mean for the Red Raiders? What possible moves could they make in terms of that position and what this upcoming season could look like? So there's a lot there, and happy to dive in.
Yeah, James. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of layers. The story is fascinating from the standpoint that there's so many angles to it. So I guess kind of where is your head right now? Obviously, they don't know what's going to happen, but let's just assume that precedent was already set. Brendan Sorsby bet on his team. He's out for the entire year. Does Tech go and just break through the rules and say, we'll pay fines and Joey McGuire will miss games because we're going to go get Dylan Raiola? Or do they see we've got a pretty full quarterback room here and they're young and Hammond's been injured, but we're going to roll with who we have? Like, what has your thoughts been on that part of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think you said it best with if he bet on games that he was a part of, even if he wasn't on the field, he's in the locker room, he's in those film study sessions, he's in the scouting report meetings, everything that's tied to that. If he was part of those football teams and betting on his team, like the NCAA, there hasn't been a gray area when it comes to this. The Hunter Deckers case of 2022, he was banned permanently almost immediately. The NCAA just banned a couple of Fordham basketball players within the last 24 hours for betting on games that they were a part of. So the NCAA has made it pretty clear that is the rule, and that's what's going to happen in this case. I just don't see a path for anything else to take place. With that said, I think the NCAA has set the penalties or set the bar for the ghost transfer rule that you mentioned there. Like if Texas Tech goes out and they grab a quarterback this late in the game, there are going to be severe penalties that maybe further put them outside of the Big 12 championship picture or race or whatever you want to call it, versus just sticking with the room that they have. So I think they're confident that the guys that they have on the roster are the guys that will compete now for that position. Will Hammond is ahead of schedule. That's good news for Texas Tech fans. He could be back as early as week 3. There's even some that believe he could be back as early as week 1. And then I think when you look at the additions that they've made on the offensive line, the fact that they've got Cameron Dickey at running back and Quentin Joyner and Jacoby Williams, they have a very full running back room where they could probably turn and hand the ball off 60 or 70 times and get out of weeks 1 and 2 with a win. The other quarterbacks that they have on the roster, they've got a kid that threw about 5 passes in the West Virginia blowout win last year, Jones III, and then Kirk Francis is the other transfer that they brought in. He was the backup quarterback this past season at Tulsa. He was expected to be the starter at Tulsa. They really liked his ceiling there, but ultimately bothered by injuries, he gets beat out then upon his return by Baylor Hayes, and he doesn't see the field the rest of the way. Went to a super small high school, a real small private high school, and like set the Oklahoma State touchdown record. I think he had like 60 touchdowns his senior year of high school, but again, against very, very different competition. So I think between those three, between Hammond, Jones, and Francis, like I just don't see any other way that one of those three isn't their quarterback week 1, and one of those three isn't their quarterback week 13.
Yeah, the Hammond injury, right? And I don't know. I don't remember if I ever asked if Hammond had not been injured, and would Tech have gone after Brendan Sorsby?
Tech would have gone after a quarterback. Would they have gone after a quarterback with the pedigree of a Brendan Sorsby? Maybe not, and probably not. I mean, they're paying the kid $5 million. You don't pay a kid $5 million to come in and compete for the job. Like, you pay him to come in and be the guy. So that's a great point. I mean, if Hammond doesn't get hurt, I think the outlook looks very different for him being the guy this season, and maybe not even just him being the guy, but the optimism surrounding his future. Because you got to remember, like, he played some really good football last year. He was the highest rated recruit that Texas Tech had brought in at quarterback since Patrick Mahomes. Like, he had a really high pedigree. You look at his frame, like a big body, 6'2", 6'3". He's built like a tight end. He can spin it. It was the mental part of the game last year that just wasn't quite there. Now, with the injury, is he the same Will Hammond, or is he the Will Hammond that, if he's healthy, the growth that he makes during the offseason is maybe a little bit different? But I mean, they're saying that he's already throwing in practice, some really light stuff as he tries to recover from that injury. And week 3, by the way, is the game that everybody has circled on their calendars. They play Houston week 3. That game is that Friday night game that Cody Campbell threw a fit about. It's in Lubbock. So they'll have the home crowd behind them, but that's a game that you need Will Hammond for, and that's week 3. Week 1 against Abilene Christian, week 2 at Oregon State. Again, are games you can probably get by regardless of who's at quarterback.
So, James, I understand the silliness of bringing in gambling to a gambling discussion that sits in a negative here, but they were like 11.5 wins in Vegas before all this. I know personally I was doing like a little mock through, and I'm like, I mean, outside of like the random Arizona State loss like last year, I don't see much getting in their way. I didn't have them pegged as like national champions to begin with, but I thought playoff team and could go win a game or two. Regardless of what way they pivot, does this dramatically alter their season to you? Are they taking 1 or 2 extra losses, or do you think differently and think that they could still be pretty okay in the end?
Yeah, and I saw the same thing. You know, they were 11.5 in terms of their over-under. They're the odds-on favorite in all of college football, not just the Big 12, but nationally, to run the table and go undefeated. That was pre-Brendan Sorsby stuff. Now it's at like 10.5. You know, I look at their schedule and they avoid a lot of really tough games in the Big 12. They don't play BYU. They don't play Utah. They don't play Kansas State, who I think is going to be much improved. I mean, their toughest games are probably at Oklahoma State, at Baylor. They play TCU at home. They play Arizona State at home. I mentioned Houston at home, at Cincinnati. Like they've got a schedule where if Will Hammond's the quarterback, and again, I think people are kind of undervaluing just how good he was last year when he was on the field. I mean, I remember pre-injury, like we were having a debate on our show about should they go with Baron Morton or should they go with Will Hammond? And I think a lot of Texas Tech fans would have told you last season pre-injury, let's roll the dice with Will Hammond. Again, there were games where he did look like a freshman, but with all the talent that they've brought in on both sides of the ball, and that's the thing, it's not just Brendan Sorsby that got a bag to play this season at Texas Tech. You know, they brought in some of the best defensive linemen in the country, a defensive tackle from Wake Forest, 2 defensive ends who were all league at San Diego State and Miami, Ohio. And again, they lean on the NFL to help them in the portal evaluate talent. James Blanchard has their general manager has an NFL eye, and there's a reason they had 8 guys or 9, whatever it was, in this most recent NFL draft taken and in a position to play on Sundays. So collectively, both sides of the ball, like I think there's enough talent there for them to still go 10-2, maybe even 11-1. But in the Big 12, when I look at some of the other teams, I think BYU is going to be better. I think Houston's going to be very, very dangerous. They are vastly underrated. Arizona has the reigning Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year coming back, or first-team quarterback, I should say, and Noah Fafita. There are a lot of teams that I believe are going to be better. But again, Texas Tech doesn't play them potentially until the Big 12 championship game. So to answer your question, I don't know that it knocks them from like an 11-win team to 8-4. But I do think it's probably a loss or 2, like the odds makers seem to have when they reset the over-under. I think they're probably like a 10-2 football team.
Yeah, James, they're going to be fine. They're going to be Will Hammond. I've mentioned this before. He can sling it. He can run. Obviously, Texas Tech has just had this constant issue with quarterbacks staying healthy. I mean, dating back before even Baron Morton and others. It's just been like if there's a program that's had quarterbacks get injured and others have had a streak, it has been them. So what are your thoughts about the basketball tournament going to 76 games, which is pretty much we knew was inevitable, but it's now official?
Yeah, I mean, the first thought that comes to mind is how in the world are we going to fill out brackets? Like, is this the end of the office pool? Is this the end of the tournament challenge? Like the bracket that has looked pretty much the same for the last 40 years no longer exists. I don't know how you fit 76 teams on a single piece of paper. Outside of that, I understand why it's happening. I think it was inevitable. It is a cash cow for the NCAA. It is their primary, resource when it comes to the NCAA and what they do. But there are so many teams that are going to be in this field. I actually, right before I popped on with you guys, I pulled up like what the 76 team field would look like using last year's criteria. And remember, the bubble was really weak last year. So I don't think that from a competition standpoint, it really moves the needle much for me or for the average fan. But, more than half of a sports viewing audience on any given Saturday or Sunday watching collegiate sports or the NFL, like over half of the audience wouldn't consider themselves knowledgeable about the sport. And when it comes to March Madness, how many people are filling out brackets and following the tournament that maybe don't have a ton of knowledge about the sports? Does college basketball lose those fans in some capacity because they don't want to fill out a bracket? Are we resetting brackets after the Tuesday play-in games? And it's a mad scramble once the matchups are announced for Thursday. It's going to be very funky with these 24 teams playing 12 games to get the bracket from 76 down to 64. With that said, I don't think it's any secret that this expansion is going to help the power conferences, including the Big 12. So you look at a Cincinnati last year. Baylor was even on the bubble late in the season with all the losses they had because of how difficult their schedule was. Oklahoma State, West Virginia, probably 2 or 3 teams from the Big 12, probably 2 of those 4 get in the field based off of this new 70-16 format. But like my personal opinion, man, I just think it's way too many. I don't think we needed 68. We should have kept it at 64. Way too many teams playing in the NCAA tournament.
James, going back to football, there are some very intriguing new head coaches. You got Colin Klein there at Kansas State, Eric Morris at Oklahoma State, also Morgan Scalley at Utah. And I think I covered all the bases there. Kalani Sitake stays where he is and all of that. But Iowa State, excuse me. I almost forgot about Iowa State also with a new head coach this year. But I guess what intrigues you most about maybe some of the new faces? Is there one spot maybe more so than others where you're like, man, Colin Klein with Avery Johnson, that's going to be super sweet. Like what stands out to you about the new booties, so to speak, as I'd like to say, that are entering the league this year?
Well, as a proud Kansas State alum, I can tell you that I'm very excited about Colin Klein being in Manhattan. I think that's a great fit. That was probably the most shocking offseason move when you look at the new coaches in this league. Nobody saw Chris Kleiman stepping away coming at the time. So I would say Colin Klein because of the point that you brought up. He's reunited with Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson had probably his best season when Colin Klein was calling the plays his freshman year. And then I think defensively, K-State it's vastly underrated what they've done on that side of the ball. They had Wendell Gregory, who was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year, had like 13 TFLs and almost double-digit sacks at Oklahoma State last year. And there weren't a ton of passing plays because teams were just gashing them on the ground. And so teams didn't have to throw the ball when you're up by 40 against a 1-11 team at halftime. So between him, Elijah Hill led the Conference USA in sacks as a freshman. He's one of their high-profile transfers. They have 4 or 5 very capable running backs and bring back Joe Jackson. And then K-State, they practiced in pads 12 of the 15 spring practices that they held. Like he is very much leaning into that old school Bill Snyder vibes, if you will, where this team's going to be tough and physical and almost ramped up in those categories from what we saw under Kleiman. And then Eric Morris at Oklahoma State. That is a slam dunk hire. I don't know what they're going to look like defensively. They bring the defensive coordinator from North Texas with him. North Texas had really struggled defensively until this past season, which was the first year for the new defensive coordinator. But offensively, with Drew Mestamaker and all those weapons they have at receiver, Wyatt Young, Caleb Hawkins at tailback, and you deep dive Oklahoma State, it's not just the North Texas guys that came with Eric Morris. Like they brought in some really productive players on both lines of scrimmage at the skill positions from other Power 4 schools, guys that weren't, former 4 or 5 star recruits that didn't see the field. I mean, they brought in guys that were very productive at their previous stop. So those two stand out to me. And then when you look at like the history and trajectory of Big 12 coaches, usually they struggle in their first year. Year 2 is when they have a major breakthrough. Willie Fritz at Houston, Brent Brennan at Arizona are 2 prime examples. So those guys this year would be Rich Rod at West Virginia or Scott Frost at UCF. I could see major growth and improvement now that both of those staffs have their footing. They both had really nice recruiting classes. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what these newcomers in the Big 12 do this fall.
James, great to have you, man. Appreciate it. Always enjoy joining you and Ari whenever you invite me and us, and we appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your week.
Happy to return the favor. Thanks, guys.
James Wesling, Big 12 Radio, on TuneIn with us on the Brendan Sorsby story and more. And I know Tim Brando will have his opinion on that too. He will join us next from Fox Sports on, well, other collegiate athletics type of stories in and out. Tim Brando next on 365 Sports, and this is the Smoke Show. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco, and they're having the declaration of deals at Alan Samuels right now. I drove that Jeep Cherokee in 2 or 3, weeks ago. Got a call from Ted Teague, CEO and general manager. Like to drive this around, and that happens a handful of times during the year. It's been Ram trucks, Jeep, SUVs, and others. It's a fantastic vehicle. There is the Jeep Grand Cherokee. There is the Jeep Cherokee, and there's also the Jeep Cherokee Limited. Right now, get 0% for 60 months during the declaration of deals at Alan Samuels in Waco. Or you get $10,000 off inventory limited. When they're gone, of course, then they are gone. So your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels with Ram trucks and Jeep. The Jeep Wagoneer is another spectacular SUV they have on the lot for you, a sales staff that wants to show everything that you want to know or get to learn about a car, test drive it if you want as well, and then through the process of buying. And don't forget, they have a great supply of pre-owned cars and vehicles too. Alan Samuels, the declaration of deals right now in Waco, Loop 340 and east of 84.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Car Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings. The GMC Sierra delivers strength, power, and a refined interior loaded with premium comfort and technology. During Richard Car's 27th anniversary sale, find savings like $9,000 off all Sierra 1500 Pro and SLE models in stock. Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
And here we go, this 4 o'clock hour, and it is Tim Brando time. And a lot of our listeners love this segment with Tim, no matter when it is. And Tim, just wait a little bit, and something in college athletics is going to pop. Unfortunately, sometimes it's usually like rulings, hearings, lawsuits, etc. NIL transfer portal, and now. What was your reaction and your thoughts about Brendan Sorsby and obviously a lot of fire?
Yeah, a lot of fire, and I think it's just the tip of the iceberg to some extent. We should not be shocked by this at all. As it relates to the level of vetting through the transfer portal, perhaps this will speed a few things up with regard to that. Because I know with the kind of expenditures we're discussing, had the vetting been deeper and stronger and more efficient, probably wouldn't have happened. My friends down in South Louisiana are feeling like they dodged a big one. They dodged a big bullet, losing out on the Sorsby sweepstakes. But the truth of the matter is, for anyone to suggest that certain schools did not know, and I know that's going to be that's where it's going to be fought a lot, I believe, with the litigation anyway, with Cincinnati and with Indiana. There were people in Indiana talking about this back in 22. It's just in this day and time, David and Craig, there's no doubt that 2022 might as well be 1922. I mean, we forget. People just don't keep up with the history that much of what's going on in any facet of life, but particularly in college sports. Okay. And that's unfortunate. My old friend Bino Cook, the great historian that was the originator of College Game Day, who is forever overlooked by historians, even those at ESPN. I mean, thank God Lee Corso kept his memory alive. Otherwise, I think a lot of people would not have even known Bino was a part of it. There would have been no game day without Bino. Bino would have been all over this, saying, see, this is another example of people that just don't keep up. And once something has happened and we know that it happened, why aren't people vetting, and why aren't people doing their homework to the extent that they need to? But it's in terms of the gambling. Listen, I'm close with a number of people that deal with this as part of their business. Danny Sheridan's a dear friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. 75% of all college students, not players, students, bet on a daily basis. And they're not just betting on scores. They're betting on, a 2-2 pitch in the third inning of a college baseball game, all right? And it's not like we haven't seen this story pop up before. Not long ago, an Alabama baseball coach was let go. I think people should remember that. We had the story in Iowa. But again, it fades in the background and people forget about it. So I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. I certainly understand the situation that Texas Tech feels that it's in. But I will say, simply from a football standpoint, this is going to just, in my opinion, galvanize that locker room. And in a lot of ways, Will Hammond becomes, his health and his mending from that ACL, which was projected to put him out there on the third week of the season, which, of course, was that highly debated Friday night game that we at Fox will have. That was when he was due to arrive back. I don't know that they can rush him up and get him ready to go. but they'll have answers. I mean, they signed Hammond to a 2-year deal a little over a year ago for better than $1 million. They wanted to lock him up, make sure that he was there even before they had the playoff blunder in that game, and felt like, hey, we got to get busy and find some answers, because at the next level, that's where they struggled, was at quarterback. So hence the circumstances of going after Sorsby in those sweepstakes that ended with Texas Tech winning out over LSU.
So, Tim, based on what you said, that there wasn't a ton of surprise necessarily, does this mean Cincinnati fans should be a bit concerned about, initially the thought was like, oh, well, Cincinnati narked him out. Now it's like, well, they would have narked on themselves, because it turns out that they may have known themselves. So, like, do you feel like if you're a Cincinnati fan, are you sweating a little bit? Do you feel like that's necessary?
Probably not, because what they don't know, they don't know. I mean, what would we know had he not checked himself in? And by the way, checking himself in, I'm sure, is something that he felt he needed to do, and I applaud the young man for doing it. But at the same time, let's face it, if it was going to get out anyway, it was in his best interest to step in, be proactive, because, listen, we've seen rules and regulations from the NCAA, even though these have been written for quite some time, and they're pretty stiff. I mean, this is not a legal situation. This isn't like money being transferred, okay? This is an NCAA rule that was pretty specific that's been violated. The bottom line on all this is part of why you check yourself in this far in advance is to probably hope that you can find a way through litigation to clear your eligibility somehow, some way. And what chances he has of doing that probably means that from a public relations standpoint, you try to curry favor by saying, I've got a problem, I'm admitting to it, and I'm going to check in now. Now, whether this works, hell, I have no idea. Right. I'm not a lawyer, and God knows I'm not going to predict what the NCAA might do. They are clearly a toothless organization on many fronts, but not necessarily on this one, not where this particular rule is in place. We've seen examples of it before, and these guys, whether they were coaches, players, or whatever, they're gone. The eligibility is gone. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and with their various court battles, their wins and losses, it feels like this is the one area the NCAA cannot be toothless, because the moment the integrity is questioned, then it's all just it's all for naught.
Exactly.
I do think that I've seen this comment elsewhere, but I thought it myself. It does feel like there's been a lot of new occupations that have been created in the wake of all these college football changes, and a vetting system does feel like it's just going to be more logical. Where for whatever teams already have, I'm sure they have some things in place, but I do agree that there's now going to be more of an emphasis probably on background checks for transfers and things of that nature.
Yeah, have to be. This is, again, part of the growing pains that we're all going through in college athletics to a tremendous degree. But at the same time, the other thing that's interesting to me about how this is all working out is how we're all culpable to some extent to the gambling situation, because so much media, and I'm not just talking about digital media like the platform we're on now. I'm talking about all forms of major media, including broadcast networks, cable networks, have all become part of the gaming industry. And we have to sort of look at ourselves in the mirror to some extent with this. But I think you're probably seeing, as it relates to the way major media, what I'd call legacy media, is dealing with it now, because they know, in terms of influence, our profession, broadcast, whether it's digital or over the air or cable, adopted it big time. A lot of money was transferred. A lot of commercials that are airing, whether it's here or someplace else, whether it's on ESPN, whether it's on Fox, it's there for all to see. So the derivatives of that are going to play a role in these kinds of stories whenever they pop up. So we all have to be careful to some extent. I think whenever we look at a story similar to this, and we're going to see a lot more. I think this is just the beginning, in terms of major players, whether it's football or basketball. You can make a great case. It's easier in basketball than it would be in football. Has historically, that's for sure.
Tim, the Iowa State Hunter Decker story, among others, Iowa, we see these things happen, and then we go, oh, we'll learn from this. Do we? Have we learned from it? It's as prevalent as ever before. It's an addiction, and in some cases, it's a adrenaline rush. But has anybody really learned it? And like, we could be on the air right now, like you said, and there's a big Bet MGM logo on our screen as we complain about Brando Sorsby getting caught gambling.
That's right. Not enough. I don't think we've learned enough. That's for sure. But hey, broadcasters that have left some legacy media have gone to work where? FanDuel, DraftKings. I mean, add them all up. Call them all out. I've not done anything in that area, but that isn't to say if one of them had called my representatives and said, "Hey, we'd like Tim to do this or that," they have this amount of money and a Brinks armored truck of some sort. Would I have probably considered it? More than likely, I would have. But I'm glad in some measure that I haven't. But again, when broadcast networks invest in it as well, and they have, then there really is, in terms of the legalities of it, nothing perceived as being wrong with it. Okay. And my God, when we started game day, we couldn't even use the B word. It was like, closer than the experts think. Remember the old Corso line? We couldn't give a +6 or a minus. Dino had to say the final score will be 20-12. Which meant, of course, they were going to cover the 7 or the 7.5. So we just jumped into this thing. All of us did. And now anyone can literally get on one of these and make a bet at any time, try to pull together a parlay, and it's running rampant through that. I've got son-in-laws in their 40s and 30s, daughters in their 40s and 30s, and that generation, fellas, and if you can manage it, it's fun, I'm sure. If you got the money that you can bet on this or that and put together some sort of parlay, if it keeps you motivated to watch, it certainly helps our ratings. Okay. More people are motivated to watch games because they've got something on it. I get all that. It's this, it's a circle, and it's never ending. We all have to come to grips with it. So there's a level of responsibility, I guess is my point, that we all have to take when stories like this pop up. Now, what is the level of that responsibility and accountability? I think we're going to soon find out. A lot will depend on how Sorsby handles this. Hell, I don't know. He and his people might just be saying now, screw this, get your help, start getting ready for the combine. We're not even going to battle this in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Texas Tech may be looking for, and their NIL people may be looking for, some help legally with regard to what they did or did not find out once they procured him through the portal. That I don't know either. But we're going to see this story pop up again in different areas of legalese, and there'll be no getting away from it.
So, Tim, I know you've had a lot of back and forth and opinions on the discussion around college football potentially expanding the different ideas that are in play all the way up to maybe 24, but that still is being played out and discussed between the parties that matter, Sankey and Petiti and so on. What we do know is that the basketball tournament, after a lot of talk about that, is in fact going to expand. It is a bigger March Madness now moving forward. What are your thoughts on having the bubble kind of shift now because you're allowing more teams in? And is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How do you view it?
I'm not surprised by it. I don't think it's going to be nearly as horrific as some people in media would have you believe. And I think a lot of fans are probably, once they find out how this all shakes out, and really what they're doing with it is turning the first 4 into a larger group of 12 at 2 different sites, with games being played on Tuesday and Wednesday to see if teams can be slotted in certain places. And their bracket will be much the same when Thursday gets here. And that's really what matters, I think, a lot to the fans. And then after that, it's more basketball. The viewing habits of those that watch the NCAA tournament, it's been proven, have not gone downhill at all because there's been a first four, and this is just more games. It will make, as it always does, for greater conversation with regard to the bubble at the end of the season. I can speak to this because of the recently held Crown, which, of course, right there in your backyard, Baylor was part of. Those teams, including Baylor, by the way, I would suggest to you, were teams that were good enough to have played in the first four, okay? Or if we want to call this now a first 12, if you want to go to that group, or the first 8, if you want to go to that group, depending on whether you're looking at the tournament as being 64, 68, or 76, okay? When we moved to 68, it didn't have that dramatic an impact, other than the fact that it screwed with the brackets when VCU got in as an 11 seed, moving from the first four all the way to the final four. So we had to adjust our thoughts on that. This will be a little bit more of the same where that's concerned. It will not make any extra dough for either of the carriers, Turner or CBS, but it can make extra money for what? The NCAA through 2032, when, in my opinion, they lose complete control of the tournament and really their bank account as we know it. So they wanted to, squeeze more money if they could out of this any way they possibly could. And as for the teams that are in it, having been at that Crown tournament again, the teams that were playing, West Virginia being one of them, Baylor, Oklahoma, these were teams that were really playing well. And had they played in Dayton rather than in Las Vegas, they would have been competitive teams. Now, there were a couple of teams probably that didn't need to be there. Rutgers probably didn't need to play. But the others that were on hand there now would more than likely be in the tournament. And Fox, frankly, went from 16 to 8 in the Crown, with the thought process being that they would have gone to 76 last year. We were anticipating that the NCAA would move more swiftly on this, even though none of the fans really wanted it. The one thing I will say to you guys, fans need to come to grips with this, okay? And it's part of the reason why some of my recent tweets, and I know you guys follow me on social media, has gotten so much pushback, not just from fans, but from also some writers, from scribes that are hard line on this, that we don't need to have more teams. It doesn't matter what you think. And fans, it doesn't matter what you think. This is about revenue streams that are created by greater inventory. Now, for the NCAA tournament, I think it's minimal. I think the impact will be minimal. But for college football, it's vital that they grow. It's vital that they go from 12 to 16. And then to have in place a plan that after they've gone to 16, soon after they go to 24. I was saying this months ago, way back with you guys, maybe in January or February, I was telling you that this idea that seems so outlandish from Tony Petitti makes a hell of a lot of sense. Now, what has happened since last year at this time and where we are now? Okay, other than Greg Sankey, all of the other Power 4 commissioners of college football are in line with the 16 to 24 concept. They were not this time a year ago, okay? So you better start seeing the tea leaves and you better begin reading them, okay? And for someone to tell me, and I've had this happen most recently, just yesterday, Matt Hayes was like, Tim, get off your phone. I'm like, no, I'm not going to get off the phone. I'm telling you the truth. We've since texted back and forth with one another. I've got a lot of respect for Matt. But he, like so many other writers, fails to understand that for the economics that we currently have in place with college football right now, they got to go to 16 and go to 16 soon to be able to not just take care of the revenue share part of everything that's going on, but to find a way with the new presidential executive order and the thoughts really coming from the president's commission that we need to make it more accessible for more teams and schools so that the sharing of revenues can be out there for others. The big thing to people always want to point out is, Brando, you ignorant slut, we know you're a spokesperson for Fox. So you want more games so you can call. That has nothing to do with it. My contract, even though I recently signed, is only going to be good till 29. I likely will never have an opportunity to call any college football playoff games. If I do, it'll be a gift from heaven. But this has nothing to do with where I work or who I speak for. I'm just telling you the God's honest truth that the future financially of college football will rest on the expansion of the playoff. And it's already been proven. It's already there for everyone to see. When we went from 4 to 12, the monies made were essential. When the NCAA settlement came down and those conferences all said, yeah, we're good for the $20.5 million. Why were they able to say that? Because of their partnerships in television, who've got to come up with the greater inventory to help them meet that particular need. And now with what's going on moving forward, they're going to need even more revenue. So this.
Well, we just lost the feed. Let's see if we can got it yet. We got it for another 15 minutes or so. Let's break right here, Rez. He's not on there. Yep. Let's break, and we'll come back and try to re-engage with Tim Brando, Fox Sports, with much more. By the way, one note in case he does jump back on, the Big 12 Conference has approved a private capital deal with Redbird Capital, the first such arrangement for a major NCAA conference. There's more to the details, but schools have a choice to opt in for $30 million in capital, and the league gets at least $12.5 million infusion as part of the strategic partnership.
Yeah, I think this has been out there for quite a while, just not officially official until today. And so, yeah, now the league has fully approved that pursuit and that arrangement, and it'll be really interesting to see which schools decide to take up that offer and who doesn't take up that offer, but kind of complex to get into all of it right here. So let's just get back to our convo with Tim here.
Back to the Tim Brando, Fox Sports. Appreciate your time, Tim. We lost you there for a second in the middle.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah, you were just saying, Tim, that like there's not much of a choice here, and that this is for the money. Like, I guess my thing there would be like, well, does the playoff ever stop expanding? Like, or is it just constantly going to have to be growth?
No,
like,
I don't.
And I think the fans understand that their opinions don't matter. I think it's just hard for fans to hear that, right? It's just like, we know it's all about the money. It just hurts to hear it that way.
Yeah, especially from a talking head on a network. I get that. I get that. But again, you guys know me well.
Right.
This has nothing to do. Now, granted, do they need more network? Have I stated that they need more than one network entity involved in the college football? Yes, because one entity alone is not, even with all that Disney money, even with all those profits that they show at the end of every year, okay, with the Mickey Mouse guys, it's still not enough. You need a deal that is very similar, if not exactly like the blueprint that the NFL has. And by having various networks, it might not just be Fox and ESPN. It could be NBC, CBS. It could be, and by the way, the more the merrier. I think those of us that have been in this business a long time, and I've worked for just about everyone but NBC, is invested in intercollegiate athletics, and the viewing habits of America today when it comes to network television, guys, it is about what? It's about politics and sports. And politics is wrapped up on cable news. So who's watching NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox? People are watching them to watch live sports whenever and however they can get it. And that's why the battle, and this is going to go to DC. This is going to be something that you really need to keep an eye on, as the Netflixes and the Apples. I mean, the NFL is running the show on this. Let's see how much more of the digital landscape will be allowed moving forward to go to the NFL, because college football hasn't gotten any of that money yet, and the money is there to be gotten. But that's another part of this story that's out there. But rest assured, people aren't watching Bonanza on Sunday nights or Mission Impossible anymore. The way they don't even watch 60 Minutes the way they once did. Live sports television is driving the financial bus for over-the-air television networks who have all these affiliates that they need to satisfy across the country.
So, Tim, I wanted to follow up on something you said a few minutes ago, and you mentioned 2032 and how the NCAA is not going to quite have like the power they do now. I believe is kind of how you phrased it. Could you just elaborate on that? I know that's like around the time all these conference deals are coming up, and that's typically when we see mass changes is around those time periods. So I'm assuming some of it might have to do with that, but could you explain just why 2032 sort of looms as a difference-making date here in the future?
Because the only reason the NCAA exists, okay, is the NCAA men's basketball tournament. That's their biggest profit maker. That is it. The women's tournament is worth more now, but they don't profit off of it. The men's tournament is funding over 80%, almost 85 to 90% of the non-revenue producing sports that colleges currently have and want to keep in place. We've already seen Arkansas, they dropped their tennis program this past week. We're going to see more of that moving forward with this rudderless ship that we have in intercollegiate athletics. I mean, we're talking football and basketball primarily here because they're the two most popular sports at the collegiate level. But I don't need to tell you guys how important baseball is, men's baseball, women's softball, volleyball, swimming. The fact that 85% of the athletes that participate in the Olympics have been getting their training not in Colorado Springs, where the Olympic location is, but in colleges around the country. And as those sports continue to be dropped, one after the other after another, something's got to be done. And that's where, you know, Cody's thoughts, which of course have raised the ire down in Lubbock, Mr. Double Eagle Oil, he's upset a lot of the people involved in network television by making his statements. But the truth is there's something to his argument. You can say that this will never work and we don't need that, and I know a lot of people do. But there's something to that particular argument moving forward. So they got to redefine so much. And I don't know, the NCAA is a bureaucracy that has been padding its wallet and kicking the can to the curb on all of the factors that have come into play that have put all of these institutions in trouble. Now, some of these institutions and conference affiliations, they want to harness what's going on because they're still living in the past, okay? They just went to 9 games in the SEC. Why? Because about 5 or 6 presidents wouldn't let them go past 8 because they wanted their almighty opportunity to get to 6 wins, the plateau to get their teams bowl eligible. How smart was that? And how long did they have to wait to get that done? If they are trying to make sure that they protect just themselves, only themselves, then they're going to find out that you're not as big as you once thought. Okay, without the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, and the other conferences around America, you can't schedule enough games to keep people interested in what you're doing across the board nationally. We have to grow the sport nationally. And I realize the regional history that college athletics has. I do. No one understands it more than me. And that kind of regionality and that we're going to beat them and our way of life is better than their way of life, all those things that brought us to college athletics, we got to adjust and adapt to the understanding that it is a business now, okay? And why did that happen? Because the NCAA never thought that the idea or concept of taking players and just putting them out there and letting them play with nothing other than tuition and food maybe coming their way, that would be good enough. I mean, that kind of thought process is as antiquated as the quote-unquote antebellum homes that I might visit in South Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, or you name those states, okay? You got to get your head out of the clouds if you're a president of these institutions and understand if you want to make the money necessary to have the great college athletic program that you deem necessary to enhance your enrollment, you better start thinking in the 21st century, not the 20th century.
So let me ask you this. If another ESPN has control, and I don't know why, of course, they would not want to give up control, but they only have.
Well, they'd have to if they go to 16.
Well, that's my question. How much of just, for example, Fox Sports takes gets some games, however it happens. Would that help alleviate the conspiracy theories of coverage?
It would help all across the board. If there were a cooperative effort, David, I've been saying this all along. We're watching NBC or CBS or Fox or did I leave anybody out? I think I got them all in there. At the end of the day on the NFL, they're telling us which big game is coming up next. Nance is saying, well, don't forget, coming up tonight, Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth will have your Sunday night game. It's going to be, the 49ers and the Eagles. And whoever's got the next big game, they're promoting all of the sport of the National Football League on each of the networks that are in partnership with the NFL. Why in God's name don't we do that in college? Imagine how much more viewership we'd have and how easier it would be for fans to follow what's where. You guys know it. You hear it all the time. Where am I going to find that game? Where is this? Where is that? Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Suddenly Turner's doing games now in the Big 12, right? And Peacock's got some games in the Big 12 in college. Why aren't we promoting where those games can be found? If we all worked together, okay, if all the networks that were in partnership with college athletics work together the way those networks, those very same networks do with the NFL, it would enhance the viewing pleasure and help make a hell of a lot more money that is deserved and is really backloaded from the money they haven't gotten that they should have over the last, 20, 25 years or so. Even with all that money that we've made, and we've made more money now than we've ever made, but ESPN alone can't pay themselves all the money that is necessary for college football to continue to be sustainable with the current rules, regulations that we deem we have now and that we may have in the future. And right now, we got no one governing anyway. So we better find a way to find all that money that we can to help make it sustainable, even though right now it doesn't appear that it can be.
Yeah, it's just so many hearings and meetings and lawsuits and how I do like it. I thought this should have happened many years ago, the 5 years to play 5. But now you have seniors who are a part of this class saying, wait a minute, we were competing against 7th, 8th, 9th year guys when our 4 years. What about us? And they won't be, if they're not included, then they're going to sue the NCAA.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Yeah. Well, again, that goes back to a lot of the conferences are happy the NCAA is still there because they could always blame them, right? As opposed to take it on themselves. That's why I've always felt that, and this is great. I do think it's great because I do believe that Tony Petitti, as commissioner of the Big Ten, and Greg Sankey are in constant conversation. Now, they have a different way to lead. One likes to talk and one doesn't. Petitti is one of those guys that's very difficult to get a hold of. Greg Sankey is an NCAA bureaucrat is his background. He was once head of the infractions committee. That's where Mike Slive got to know him. Mike was a former judge that dealt with infractions and heard a lot of those cases. And that was the essence of his background before he went to the Southland Conference to be commissioner of that league. And he worked his way up the ladder, and Slive hired him. And Greg's done a nice job for the SEC. There's no doubt about that. But there are different ways of getting things done. When somebody says to you, though, he understands college athletics in a way that Petitti doesn't, I'm like, whoa. No. He's been a part of why college athletics is in the position it's in now. All right? Where we are today and where we need to go with vision has to come from those who are in the business of generating extra revenue streams, which happen to be the networks, which is exactly where Tony Petitti came from. His acumen is, in fact, in how much is this product worth and how can we maximize the amount of revenue that we can bring from this particular product. So they come from two different backgrounds, but I do think they're talking. I remain optimistic. But it is telling to me that Yormark and Phillips, especially those two, have now looked at the 16 to 24 model and have said, you know what? We're leaning towards Petitti, not Sankey.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun turf war. Man, you got another show to do.
Yeah.
I told you 4:40. You said for 4:38. Get the hell out of here. We appreciate your time.
You see my phone ringing?
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Tim
Great
Brando.
talking to you guys. Great talking to
Appreciate
you.
it. Love having him on. Tim Brando with us, with opinions and all that. There's two stories you want to get to in the next segment.
Yeah, there's the Big 12 Redbird Capital that I just want to shed a little bit more light on that becoming official. And there's also, it's funny, these don't tie in directly together, but when you start talking about private investments, and I understand there's differences in private equity, private investments, and this and that and so forth, but we got another LIV Golf update coming down as well. So we're going to talk about those coming up after the break. And then we've got still John Cooper to talk NFL draft at 5. So we'll cover Big 12 Redbird and also just a minor, well, maybe not if you're a LIV Golf fan, but an update on that as well. And we'll do that on the other side of the break. So please stay tuned. This is 365 Sports.
And it is 365 Sports, and PettyClinicLowT.com is where you can get yourself back to where you used to be. And what I mean by that is that as you get older, 1 out of 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. You see, well, we were talking about gambling commercials, the low T commercials, and other commercials that flood usually sporting events. Dr. Kent Petty, this is before really you started to see the low T centers opening up around the country. I remember visiting with him. I remember getting a blood test, and I remember my T level was fine, but then things can change. That was 10, 12, 11 years ago when he opened up his doors. If you are not quite the same, your energy's down, your sex drive is down, or even if you have that, your performance is not the same. It could be low T inside of your blood, inside of your body, so why not at least get it checked? Dr. Kent Petty will set you up with an appointment. Contact him at PettyClinicLowT.com. He will get your blood work. Take care of that appointment. Get the blood work. And if your testosterone level, your T level is too low, then he could put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Dr. Kent Petty at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to PettyClinicLowT.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoke Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with David Smoke and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go. As we head into the 5 o'clock hour, John Cooper from Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft to summarize the weekend, look ahead to of the draft, and then look ahead to next year, too. In fact, we'll show you a tweet on the other side of the number one overall pick, the odds. We'll do that in the 5 o'clock hour. But a couple of stories. Paxton put this up in the chat room. If there's something going on, you're going to find it. Those of you in the chat, we appreciate that because we're doing a show and we got various things that we're monitoring too. But LIV Golf, the story came out a few weeks ago that they were going to eventually back away from LIV and pull their funding, the Saudis.
Yes.
And then it kind of cooled down, and the CEO said, no, that's not the case. Now a story coming out today that, in fact, yes, they are.
Well, yeah. So there was a story. There was a couple of different places that reported on LIV losing their backing from the Saudi Arabian PIF, the investment fund there that the country runs, and hundreds of millions, billions of dollars a part of that. That's why you saw a lot of those extravagant contracts and everything else. But the country of Saudi Arabia is reprioritizing, and they have been for going on a while now. They're trying to be a little bit less oil reliant because, as you saw with recent global events, it has a direct impact on them that is very substantial. So they've been trying to be less about oil. And so they're kind of moving around their strategies, right? They had like all these big mega building construction projects. They're starting to pull back on some of those. And they're just re-scrambling around and reprioritizing and doing all of that with some of what they've planned for the future. And so there was talk that, yes, in fact, one of those reprioritizations is to no longer back LIV Golf because it's not a moneymaker for them. And at this point, they're all about money making. And so it's losing money. And there was that report. Now, I remember Trey Wingo actually came out with he's got his own podcast.
Very lengthy.
He had a long rant on a long thing on LIV, and he was basically declaring that it was dead. And then I guess when it didn't die in the next week, some sort of, I guess, took the headline and ran with it. He backed off that and apologized for not being totally accurate or whatever. But I don't know. I think that the idea of what was being said was like, hey, this thing could wind down soon was the thing that was of interest. And so now we did see it quiet down for a couple weeks, and there was some pushback, and LIV's still doing their events. But then they just recently had an event get canceled. And that was another that's interesting. And now here comes the story today from it looks like the Wall Street Journal. The Saudi Public Investment Fund, PIF, which has poured billions into the tour over its 4+ years, will end its funding as of the end of the season. It's been in question for several weeks since Saudi officials outlined a financial future that did not mention the sports investment. And according to the new report in the Wall Street Journal, players will be notified Thursday, so tomorrow, that funding is officially coming to an end. And Yahoo and other outlets have been contacting LIV so far to no responses. I'm sure they'll get it eventually, but right now I'm sure LIV's kind of trying to figure things out itself, although they've had some warning because this has been out there for at least a couple of weeks, and now it looks like it is in fact what was originally reported. They are losing their funding, and they don't have a lot of options.
Yeah, it was reported, and then the CEO came out, and then it looked like maybe it was a little bit premature. In fact, even Trey Wingo said I probably shouldn't have made or reported some of what I was talking about with LIV, but it does look, usually when something like that comes out, there's not, when good organizations report it, you can get fooled every once in a while, but it's pretty legitimate. It looks like it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I don't think the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal are out to get LIV and do this big false story to simply get clicks and views. Like, I think we cited an example of just a really pathetic usage of trying to get clicks and views earlier, but those entities aren't going to do that. So there's like a small segment of LIV fans that really do. It's strange. It's like this parasocial relationship where they feel like they have to like defend LIV, and it's just weird. It's like this Saudi-backed golf league is not like.
Well, there are. I know guys
whatever,
I play with that they are huge fans of Mickelson or whoever. So yeah, they look at it differently.
I'm talking about the grouping of people that were like, "Oh, this is BS. There's no way this." Like, just kind of in denial about it. Even though when you look at the reasoning behind it, which is that the Saudis are shifting priorities, and so they're canceling construction projects. They're canceling just kind of like before. They didn't have to worry about making money. It was just a vanity project. It was a sports washing project. It didn't matter if they made money. Now, because the times have changed, they kind of have to worry more about making money. There isn't just an endless debit card.
There's a reason why they're rich. They don't usually do too many stupid deals.
They're also rich because of oil, but they also understand that oil doesn't last forever. And so they're trying to back away and just be a little bit more diverse. And so now making money matters, and LIV was not making money for them. It appears at all, or to the extent that they were worth saving. So yeah, the reporting from a couple of weeks ago is just being further confirmed. And tomorrow, if this is accurate, then we will hear about LIV issuing a statement, or one of the players will come out and relay what they've been told. But according to these reports, yeah, LIV as soon as tomorrow is going to be without that Saudi backing or announce that. And without that, there's no way that it's anywhere in the same universe as where it was prior to that. You were talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and the contracts that some of these guys signed. There is nobody in the world, no matter if it's Elon Musk or whatever other billionaire out there, that would go and just sink money into this thing to simply keep it alive with the way it's currently constructed. So I don't think the future is very bright or very long for LIV Golf, especially not as we once knew it, when it was that big rebel group that was going to turn golf on its head. Now here, 2-3 years later, it looks like it might not even be around much longer.
Well, what they did, in a way, improved the PGA Tour, because the PGA Tour lost Rahm and DeChambeau and others as well. Mickelson, of course, a huge name at the beginning, Brooks Koepka. And the PGA Tour pivoted. They didn't act stubborn. They pivoted. And they've improved a lot of what they now do, revenue sharing for players, other amenities for players. Now if you're Koepka and you're Patrick Reed and you're coming back and you're in when the others were offered a chance, a pathway, and said no, you wonder what happens with them now.
Yeah, I don't know, for a guy like DeChambeau who signed such a lucrative contract and apparently was already negotiating on the next one. Like, I don't know if it's like a college football coaching contract where they still owe him all of his money if they dissolve, or how all that will work. But yeah, some of those guys that stayed a part of the resistance, if you will, from a PGA perspective, then yeah, they're going to have to probably crawl on their hands and knees to come back and suffer some pretty significant penalties. And for Brooks Koepka, I'd imagine for him and Patrick Reed and guys that started to make that journey back, they had an idea this was coming. Maybe it was just the timing was coincidental, but I would have to imagine there was some idea of like, this isn't working.
Why did you think that they were given a pathway to come back? Because I think everybody knew this was coming. Some players probably didn't believe it enough to come back. Some were stubborn. Some said, hell no. And Koepka and Patrick Reed are already kind of entrenched.
And again, maybe like a DeChambeau's contract is such that it was worth holding out further because you're going to get $100 million guaranteed. I don't know what his setup is, but I'm just imagining why he would still not flip over to the other side if this was the writing on the wall. So yeah, the pushback to the original reporting, if you really paid attention to it, there wasn't really a challenge to the reporting itself. If you actually read the words by the head of LIV Golf, he didn't say anything about like, oh, that's BS and we're going to be around for forever. He said, we are funded through 2026. And they are still funded through 2026 because that money's already been accounted for. It's past 2026 when there is no sign of what this looks like. So he chose his words carefully. in trying to take some of the heat off and not make it sound like, oh my God, tomorrow we're going to show up and the doors are locked. But he also did not in any way cool off the theories or the ideas, the reporting that this is where it eventually would go. They are funded through 2026. Beyond that, they have no guarantees whatsoever. And that's basically what this is just further reinforcing. And so tomorrow it appears that we will hear some pretty significant news on LIV Golf for those who are interested in that.
I remember when during the Masters, they asked Tom Watson, of course, won many majors, what he would have done with the players coming back, like Brooks Koepka and Patrick Reed, and then we'll get to the Big 12 Redbird Capital. He said what they need to do is keep them from some of the revenue, but make them go earn their card back on the Corn Ferry Tour. Retired stockbroker brought that up. I laughed my ass off when I heard that because, yeah, you could come back. You're all going to be pretty much on the tour pretty quickly, but you got to go back to the minor leagues for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be something along those lines. I mean, now there's looking like it's going to be the one place to go play, right, is the PGA, and then its subsequent branches.
There's the DP, the European
DP.
Tour, which is where Reed is right now for a few. But,
you're right.
And it's a really good tour, but it's not
the PGA.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's only so many options, but it's just fascinating because this was such a wild thing when it first started and was such a disruptor to the golf ecosystem. And I guess if this is the writing on the wall, like LIV Golf as we know it, like I said, there's nobody unless Elon or whoever the other billionaires are out there, like the guys trying to consolidate Warner Brothers right now, for the name's escaping me, outside of wanting to burn hundreds of millions of dollars, which typically those guys don't want to do, much less on a golf tournament that's not got any real buzz or ratings or anything of the sort. Like, yeah, this is not good, and it's not going to probably work out for much longer past the money that's already been set aside for 2026. And as we've seen, like last week, they were canceling events, and I know there's various reasons as to why, but it's just interesting because this was the big sports washing thing, among other investments by the Saudis, but it was also such a disruptor, and it was something that I kind of drew somewhat of a parallel to college sports and this constant discussion about private equity and private capital and private investment and all these things. And my point in a little smoke break I did a few weeks ago was, if you're college football or college sports leaders, I know you're constantly searching for money. You can never have enough of it, but just be careful, because LIV Golf was great until the Saudis suddenly said, you know what? World events have dictated that we're now just going to pull the plug on this thing. So good luck to you guys. Like, it was fun while it lasted. And so I know that that's not an exact comparison. The Saudis backing LIV or creating it and funding it versus Redbird Capital coming in with the Big 12. But when the money's not yours and it's being given to you and there's a return expected and so on and so forth, I do think you need to really think these things out before just going, oh, there's $1 and going and grabbing and chasing it, which I think college leaders have been pretty careful so far. We haven't seen anybody just dive into the deep end, but we have seen now the Big 12 make it official with Redbird Capital. And this is interesting because it's not just Redbird coming in along with Weatherford Capital and saying that we're going to take over ownership. It's not that. It's not them just giving a bunch of money and just here you go, have fun with it. It's actually pretty interesting the way that it breaks down, but that is now official. So Redbird, as well as Weatherford Capital and the Big 12, ratifying the league's president and chancellors, ratifying, according to Yahoo, a 5-year agreement with Redbird and Weatherford Capital to finalize a 3-prong package to, one, deliver an infusion of capital, so at least $12.5 million to the league office to drive commercial development and business growth. Also, to offer schools an opt-in capital credit line of $30 million each. So that's the other part. That's probably been the most widely talked about part. And then create a strategic business partnership that could pay off when the conference goes to market for its media rights contract. So those are the 3 prongs to this. And I think the most widely discussed is that $30 million capital credit line, which, as we've told you and explained, and others have explained that have guested on this show, that's an like that's not like every school has to take that and then show a return on investment. But if Iowa State wants to take $25 million, they can, and then they can deal with that themselves. Or if they choose not to take anything, they can so do that as well. It'll really be up to the institution. The Big 12 describing the deal as a Redbird Business Development Partnership, and that as a part of the partnership, the firms are co-investing the infusion into the conference with an expected return. What did I just say? With an expected return. So again, there are people who are giving this money, even if you don't want to necessarily take it. But if you do, there is going to be an expected return. But the key here is the capital partners will hold no ownership in the league, and the deal will not change the operation or governance of the conference. So I think that was the big scary part was, hell, is Redbird now running the league? Or are they going to be in there making realignment decisions? Are they going to be deciding what kind of court is being used in March? Like, what kind of say do they have? So from the outside, they are just saying, here's some money if you want it, each school. But if you take it, then we're going to discuss what the returns need to be or whatever. And then from a league perspective, they're flushing they're bringing in some cash to just try to help the league develop and grow itself, which we'll see how they go about trying to do that. So, the votes from presidents and chancellors finalized an agreement last Thursday that's been under discussion now for more than 2 years, a deal spearheaded by Yormark and board chair Doug Gerard, KU president. So, there you go. $12.5 million in capital to the league, and then up to $30.5 million for each school, depending on what they want to take. But there is one more part to this that's very interesting.
Okay.
Perhaps one of the most, you don't care about this at all.
No, I do. But there's one of the things that there's private equity and there's private capital, which is two different things, but it is about funding and having money put into your system.
Right. And I'm not just trying to get in. First of all, I don't feel educated enough to speak on that deeply and the differences here versus that. And we can have those conversations as we move forward. But now that the deal's finalized, it is interesting. But here's another caveat to it. One of the most noteworthy benefits of the deal is the exclusive college partnership with Redbird, New York-based investment management firm with $12 billion in assets. Okay, within its portfolio is Paramount Global. Paramount holds ownership of CBS and is soon expected to acquire TNT, two leading broadcast partners within the college sports ecosystem. The Big 12's current media deal, primarily owned by ESPN and Fox, ends in 2031. A league's media rights deal usually accounts. Okay, we know that part. So basically what it's indicating is that this could put the Big 12 in a good spot with Paramount, CBS, Turner Networks, et cetera. We've seen them dabble with a little bit of that. CBS obviously lost the SEC here recently. So if you look at it from the future TV rights standpoint, maybe this also sets you up to have a good deal with Paramount, CBS, Turner, all under that same banner now. And that's something that's also of interest as far as how this all breaks down.
All right. So thank you very much, Craig, for that. LIV Golf continues to looking for oxygen, and then private capital, Redbird private capital, and the Big 12 come up with an agreement. We'll have more on that. I'll try to see if we can get somebody actually from the Big 12 to join us tomorrow on the show.
So either this is going to be a brilliant move and it's going to work out really well, or this is going to be like this is where it all went sideways. Yeah. I think there's some room for middle ground as well. We knew this was pretty much inevitable because for 2 years it's been talked about. I don't think you go that far to only just suddenly pivot and say, nah, never mind. And also they've been working pretty much in conjunction during that time anyways. The Big 12's officially partnered with Redbird, and maybe that means some good things as far as the TV deal. But what will be really interesting now is to see the reporting on what schools take up this offer. Like, does Baylor and TCU and Iowa State take up this offer? Does Texas Tech, even with all the backing they have, take up this offer? Like, that's going to be
K-State, Iowa State, anybody need it? If they don't, then they don't have to take it. Yeah. BYU, I don't know. Like, I'll text a few people and see if I get any kind of response from it. But that is it's official. They've agreed to do Redbird Capital in the Big 12. You got it? What your
no?
Okay.
I'm good.
We are joined by John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft that ended, really late Saturday. And then, of course, the undrafted free agents, which seemed to come off the table very quickly. John, thank you very much for your time. Who, in your opinion, I know there's 32 teams and maybe 8 of them did really well. Was there anybody in particular that really stood out to you like, man, damn, they had a hell of a weekend?
Well, I think the Browns, looking at them and our board, they had 4 guys that we had in the first round. So that's probably the one that sticks out the most. I thought the Giants had the equivalent of 3 first-round picks with Colton Hood and Arvell Reese, and the lineman Manoa. So those were two teams that stick out as doing really well.
John, the big shocker was Ty Simpson and the LA Rams there in the first round. I mean, what was your reaction to that when you saw that news start to come down?
Well, I felt like he was going to go in the first round. I really did. I thought somebody was going to take him. I didn't think it was going to be the Rams. In retrospect, I should have seen that coming. So there's a kind of a connection there between some of the people that coached him and the Rams. Not sure that was, the first choice of some of the people in the building, but there is a good coach there that works with quarterbacks, and so that's a good place for him. He doesn't have to start right away. I felt all along the best place for him to go was somebody that had a good starting quarterback in place that he could learn from, and then I think he can develop into a really, really good quarterback.
You mean like it used to be?
Yes, and I love that.
Like it used to be, where you could have, like Joe Gibbs was well known for stashing Jay Schrader, Mark Rippon, among others, when he had obviously good quarterbacks. So Caleb Downs, a great player. And I've said this to anyone else we've talked about in the draft, including ourselves. Great player, like unbelievable player. And yet he was still on the board. The Cowboys move up a notch and get him at 11. Are you surprised he was there?
Yes. We saw a top 10 pick there, but 11 is not that far off. So it's, I understand some people wanted offense. There were some people that wanted a guy on the edge. And so there's some movement there. I know Carnell Tate went a little earlier than we thought. So there was, one right there. But and Tyson, we liked Tyson a lot. And the fact that he went, was where he did. It's kind of where we had him 2 months ago. But then all of the talk of injuries and things of that nature got us, and we dropped him down a little bit. But he, he's a talent. So Caleb Downs fits right in with a good group of first-round picks right there. I like him. He can play in the box. He can play deep. He's twitchy. He's a very good all-around safety, and he's going to really help.
What did you think of the Cowboys double dipping with Malachi Lawrence there later in the first round? I know that the people were high on him, maybe even a little bit underrated, but I think people maybe caught off guard that he went in the first round particularly.
Yeah, we were caught off guard, but yet in retrospect, and like it happens a lot of times, you see there's a connection there with Dallas and the Central Florida coach that had been at Central Florida that's giving them really good intel. Plus, his traits are probably as good as any edge rusher in this draft, maybe even the best. And he's got an arsenal of pass rush moves. He's a little raw in some things. He could use some more strength, functional strength. But as far as a pass rusher, upside, terrific. And I think, in fact, we got on late. We had a third-round grade on him, but in retrospect, we looked at it. This was March 20th when the guide came out. We could have moved him easily up into the upper second round. And that's probably where we would have had him had we had more time. So going in the first round is a surprise, but not that much of a surprise. This is a talented edge rusher.
John, the Cowboys defense, was pathetic. I mean, they were horrible, awful. And they now have 8 to 11 new bodies. They have a new defensive coordinator, of course, from Philadelphia, and a staff. Do you see what they did? And plus who they have also brought in, plus they picked up the linebacker from San Francisco. Do you feel like that they've also completely gotten a facelift from what they've done in the offseason?
Yeah, I really like what they did. I think they did a great job in addressing the defensive needs that they have. And, their analytics department did a really good job looking at traits-based players that are very talented and can develop, and a coaching staff that obviously believes in those guys. And I'll give you a guy, Barham. I think they drafted him to play off-the-ball linebacker, and we graded him as an off-the-ball linebacker very high those first 4 games that he played. They moved him down as an edge rusher primarily later on, and he was good. He's did a great job coming off the edge, but his talent was really good off the ball. And I think the Cowboys have a guy that they can use in both places. In their defense, they can play him as a guy on the edge situationally, and they can play him as an off-the-ball linebacker, something that they need. I think they got 2 guys that are going to really help, their defense right there. Then moving on down the line, the cornerback, Devin Moore, is a guy we liked, and LT Overton is a guy that can play outside and inside. So they picked up some depth. in the draft as far as their defense is concerned, and along with some guys that are going to play right away.
So, John, as a Commanders fan, I know that there was a good probability they would get Sonny Styles. There was only like 2 or 3 names that seemed to always get mocked to them. So they get Sonny Styles, got Antonio Williams of Clemson, Katron Allen of Penn State, Joshua Joseph's edge of Tennessee. I guess just how excited should I be as a Commanders fan about Sonny Styles in particular?
You should be very excited about Sonny Styles. He is a top-notch off-the-ball linebacker. He's got cover skills. You can play him overhang. You can play him in the box. He can run. He can chase, and he can cover. And he's really kind of new at the inside linebacker position, the stack linebacker position. So he's got some work to do as far as playing in the NFL. But this kid's good. He's talented. We thought he was going to go maybe to the Giants at 5, but I don't think the Giants expected Arvell Reese to be there. It kind of went a little different than what we thought, probably maybe what some of the teams thought. And so that's where, the Commanders get, a really, really solid football player. I think they did a good job, overall. I think they had a good draft. I think, you look at, some of the other guys they got, thinking out loud, Antonio Williams is a really good wide receiver. A player that I have always liked and thought was underrated was Joshua Josephs. I was kind of surprised that he went as low as he did. We had, I think, more of a 4th round grade on him. He's a little smaller than you'll like at the position, but he's productive. He should be what you call a sub-package pass rusher who's going to be a part of a rotation. And, that's what I see in him. They got a good center, interior offensive lineman and Matt Golban. And I think Katron Allen is an underrated running back. So, I think they did a good job. I think they had a good draft.
So there's always somebody with the Ty Simpson, but that's a quarterback. So yeah, that can happen. Was there anybody that fell not just out of the first round or 10 spots that just disappeared, that you were very surprised at some point did not get drafted much earlier?
Yeah, there was there really wasn't a surprise. We knew some of these guys had some issues, C.J. Allen, the linebacker from Georgia, was a guy we really liked. We thought the Cowboys, that would be an ideal fit for him as an off-the-ball linebacker. And I'm not so sure they weren't really looking at him. But, there was an injury factor with him. And, that dropped him out of the first round. He did still go in the second round. Jermod McCoy, we didn't know for sure. We heard things that all the other people heard about the knee needing another surgery, and he goes all the way to the top of the 4th. So, that's a guy that, surprised us a little bit, that maybe he would have gone a little higher, even with the injury. But, it's one of those things. A couple of other there were some, other guys. We thought Denzel Boston was going to be a first-round pick. He didn't drop that far out of the first round. Caden McDonald was a guy we really liked. And we thought he was probably the best defensive tackle, and we were surprised that Woods and Banks went ahead of him. Traits are there. So if we're making a traits-based draft, those 2 guys had the best traits of those defensive tackles. But as far as production, as far as what they do, guys like McDonald, we like better. A lot of the defensive tackles, there was kind of a run on those guys in the second round.
So, John, to kind of bring in a current story in with just the draft as a whole, I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because until we know what happens with Brendan Sorsby, we don't know. He could play next year, he could not. But from a draft perspective, a guy who's been rumored to be involved in some gambling, who might be suspended for a season, we'll see how it goes. Like, your thoughts based on what you know about how that's viewed, how that could be handled, and how that might affect his stock moving forward.
Well, anytime you get, that kind of baggage, where there's a potential issue with gambling, there's going to be some soul searching of teams as they look at him. There's going to be I'm sure some rehabilitation. There's a lot yet to be determined as what college football is going to do with him and how the NFL is going to treat that. In the past, gambling issues have affected some players. I think Art Schlichter was one. Quarterback that I coached against, Trinity International, was a Florida State kid, John Starks. He was with the Ravens for a year, and then gambling got him bounced out of the league. Now, a little tougher on that stuff maybe back then, but that's a serious situation, and it could create a problem. So it's to be determined what's going to happen.
There is what appears to be a very lush group of quarterbacks, and Sorsby would be a part of it. We know some of the other names as well. Have you started? Is it too early? Are you still trying to get past the fog of the 26th draft to start looking on?
Still trying to get past the fog, but we're aware of some of these guys. There's some names, obviously, Sorsby, Sayin, I think that's the pronunciation. I got to get up on my pronunciation of these guys. From Ohio State, a lot of people think he's going to be the best guy. Dante Moore from Oregon, and I think that's the reason, from what I was told by some people that worked with Ty Simpson, was the reason he decided to come out was because Dante Moore decided to stay in. So he felt he didn't want to be a part of this class with some really top-notch quarterbacks. Arch Manning, obviously Arch Manning.
Yeah.
And another guy, Trinidad Chambliss, is a guy we like a lot. In fact, when we thought Chambliss was coming out, because of the situation with the eligibility battle he was having with the NCAA, we had him as a potential, maybe the third best quarterback in the draft.
Wow. In that class as well. And here was a guy that was at Ferris State. All of a sudden gets another year.
National championships. I had a write-up in my intriguing prospects all ready to go, and I had to scrap it.
That sucks. I mean, that's a waste of time. You have a copy and paste. Now you get to watch him another year. I love watching him play. I'm glad he's.
I do too. I love him. He's an exciting player.
John, is it good for the quarterback spot that these guys hang around a little longer to make money in college as opposed to jumping into the league as they normally would have in years past?
I think it all depends on the class and who your competition is coming out. Like Ty Simpson made that decision to come out because he saw less competition, and it worked out for him. He got drafted, in the top 15 in the draft. So that's a terrific decision on his part. On the other hand, staying in, playing, and learning and making money, so that works to your advantage too. And sometimes some of these rookies, some of these guys that stay in with the NIL, they make as much or more money than they would on their rookie contract. So staying in is more and more what's happening with these guys. And we get a list of players that are eligible for the draft, and we have to put together a great big database of guys that went back in, and that's the beginning of next year's database. So, and there's a lot of good players that we thought might come out that stayed in this year. And more you're seeing that because of NIL.
And I think, too, even like looking at next year's class, like Sayin doesn't have to come out if he doesn't want to. Arch doesn't have to come out if he doesn't want to. Like, we kind of assume they will. But, yeah, I mean, they still could technically hang around. I'd never imagined 5-year college quarterback Arch Manning. But, I mean, if he loves Austin that much and we know the money's good, then why the hell not, I suppose.
Or 6-year Trinidad Chambliss.
6-year Trinidad Chambliss.
Yeah, there's I'm not sure how much more of that there's going to be. But there is one caveat there is the junior college kids. Their 2 years don't count against their 4-year school eligibility anymore. So some of these junior college kids, they're going to make some money playing football. I'm not sure there's in the JUCOs yet there's NIL money, but either way, there's going to be a lot more guys playing college football. And if you take a look though at Ty Simpson, he sat behind 2 really good Alabama quarterbacks. It was his time to come out. He'd done that already. He's going to sit behind a quarterback again. He's used to it. He's a coach's kid, a football junkie. He's going to be fine, and I think he'll really develop into a good quarterback.
There was an article, John, from Bruce Feldman from theathletic.com about a week before the draft, about how some NFL scouts or personnel people are saying that the development of quarterbacks for the NFL is not quite the same because of the transfer portal. And to me, that means you might have even more development because more quarterbacks are getting a chance to play if they're blocked somewhere else. Do you see that as a trend at all coming out of college? Because next year's classes we've discussed could be loaded.
Yeah, I do see that as a potential issue. One of the things that I've noticed in watching NFL football and college football, the type of offenses pro teams are starting to mimic what goes on in college. It's a lot of one read stuff, a lot of vertical stuff, emphasis placed on wide receivers getting open, spreading out the field. Now we're getting into a lot more 12 personnel where you're seeing 2 tight ends, but you're still seeing that same type of vertical game and, tags off of those vertical routes. You don't see as much concept West Coast passing game as you used to. There's still some of that, and some teams are still teaching it. And that's hard for quarterbacks to learn, to make those triangle reads. And it's a little simpler what these teams are doing in college. I watch the game all the time. I get the pro game tape, and, I see a lot of mimicking of the college game. So therefore, for that reason, the development is accelerated because the pro teams are starting to do what these kids were doing in college. But there's still more to learn. The windows are a lot tighter, and the coverages are still more advanced in terms of what the pro teams are doing. So there's still a learning curve for sure.
John, we appreciate you, and we have your number, and we will be in touch again, maybe even drop in once or twice during the season about what you've seen as you start to put together the profiles and, again, that guide for next year at this time. We've really appreciated all your insight and time with us on this show.
Well, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it, and, we're looking forward to next season.
Yes, sir. You too. John Cooper with us from Our Last Guide to the NFL Draft has been on probably 7-8 times between really towards near the end of college football season up to the draft and also the day after the draft.
Yeah, I mean, the predicting of a draft this far out is a pretty futile exercise because although we know like Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be probably
Jeremiah Smith.
God, yeah. I've done that a couple times now. There's so many damn good Ohio State wide receivers that
and
keep getting churned out.
Yeah, no, over the year. Yeah,
and I just get them all confused. But yes, Jeremiah Smith is like a top 2 pick at worst right now. But yeah, Arch Manning doesn't have to come out. CJ Carr at Notre Dame is going to be a great quarterback prospect, but he doesn't have to come out. Julian Sayin doesn't have to come out. Hell, Dante Moore doesn't have to come out, right? So that 27 quarterback class, I did a little pod on it, but hell, we've already seen Brendan Sorsby. His wherever he was a week ago is already drastically different now than where he was because there's suddenly a lot of questions about him that didn't exist a week ago if you're going off of even just simply the guys who will be forced into the draft because of eligibility. So he's one of those guys where, yeah, his time's coming up one way or the other. But now if you thought he was a potential first-round pick, well, that's been thrown for a loop because there's all of this to be determined as far as if he even plays next year and how he goes about going to the NFL. So I don't know what other curveballs could be coming our way, but certainly the most unpredictable thing is who's going to stay in college and who doesn't. And yeah, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks, but that will determine if the 27 draft can be like just the insane amount of dudes like Lenora Sellers and gosh, I mean, there's tons of. I ran them all down the other day, and then there's the guys who are just going to naturally graduate, like I mentioned. Trinidad Chambliss now, another one. Like he's going to have to go to the draft. He doesn't have another waiver he can get or another lawsuit. So, yeah, it's going to be really fascinating to see how that group kind of comes together. And I'm almost tempted to kind of monitor it in a segment way, like once a month, just kind of check in on where is this 27 quarterback class as far as just the story of it from now when it becomes the focus to this time next year when we see who came out, who stayed in college and where eventually guys landed. But it's going to be really interesting because there is just an absurd amount of potential, but there's not really anything in terms of guarantees.
No, I agree. What a day. Appreciate the guests we've had today. We will tackle more from analysts, et cetera, on the Redbird Capital and Big 12. I know Sam Kahn's on for tomorrow. That's good news as well. And a couple of other guests that we will have on the topics of the day in sports.
I think this, like my final thoughts on the Redbird thing for right now is I like that it's optional. I think it's good to throw some money into the office and use that to market and do whatever else. So I like that not every school is just having to like take out this $30 million tab and then account for it or whatever. So the fact that it's optional, it's like a if you want to sort of a deal. even though there is very much a part of it that the Big 12 and Redbird will be working together for marketing purposes, for example, and I'm sure to help them in arranging their next TV deal to the degree that they can. But yeah, I saw like, it's just really weird how much people want to be victims. So I came across like these Ohio State fans that were like, well, can't wait for people to bitch about the Big 12 like they did with the Big 10. It's like, well, first of all, you're comparing apples to oranges because it's not the exact same deal. And God, how much of a victim do you need to be that a story like this is like, can't wait till they get made fun of? Like nobody was making fun of you particularly, dude, but private capital and all this, I understand, is very taboo. And the Big 10 did take a lot of hell for kind of discussing it to begin with. But again, it's a different arrangement that we're talking about. I believe, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but theirs was more of a private equity thing. Whereas with the Big 12, this is private investment. So there is a difference there, but it is a slippery slope. And I don't think this guarantees anything. And you've got schools that are going to be taking out multi-million-dollar loans in some cases, and it remains to be seen who those schools will be. And that will be interesting to figure out here over the next few weeks and months. But it's the new era. I mean, these are the kind of things I think we're going to see more of than we don't. And I hope the Big 12 is making, for their sake, the right decisions. And maybe this pays off in some big Paramount CBS TV rights deal in 5 years or whenever. Maybe this allows TCU to be a better version of themselves and they don't have any problem paying it off, or maybe it gets somebody into big trouble because they take out a lot of money and they suddenly can't repay it. We're going to figure that out.
Here's Ben Portnoy, who we almost had on earlier on Monday. I spoke with a number of folks around the Big 12 over the last couple of weeks about this Redbird Capital deal. Curious to see how many schools actually take cash from this fund. Definitely will not be a league-wide thing.
No. I like Texas Tech, for example. Do they need to do it? Like, they can cover the tab. We know that. But even Cody Campbell or Dustin Womble, and I probably need to learn some other names. I'm trying to be better about just not mentioning Cody Campbell, but he's like the front face of the entire operation. So that's why we always mention him. But are they willing to, like, yeah, let's add another $30.5 million. Like, at least we know we can pay it off. So that's not a problem. Whereas Iowa State, I don't know that they can take out, I don't know that Baylor could take out $30.5 million. Based on what you know nowadays, you think Baylor can take $30.5 million out?
No, and I've been told, and they've had, some cuts, etc. No,
they can't do it.
Baylor will always, along with almost every school, always have enough money when they need it. Don't ever underestimate them. But no, they're not going to do it in this environment.
But I think you and I would both agree it's not quite maybe what we imagined it was. Would that be fair? Like, to the degree of they can be comfortable, they're still riding a red line a little bit, like most schools where we've got money, but we don't have like go F you money where we're not affected in any way.
No, they have
like Texas has that. A&M has that.
Yeah,
but
Baylor's got people who can write some big ass checks. But I know that when Dave Aranda and Doug McNamee met near the end of last semester, which is right after Doug was hired, they felt like there would be more money available for NIL. And then I found out that perhaps there wasn't. That doesn't mean it won't be, but maybe not. They got some work to do.
Maybe that's also Aranda's. And that's the fact that people who would otherwise donate don't want to donate until he's gone.
Because of the unknown. Yeah.
Right. So you maybe can unlock some more money if you go hire a new football coach. Yeah. But for right now, I think they're riding that red line like most other schools out there that aren't the biggest schools in the world. So yeah, I'm interested to see who takes up this offer and how much of that pie they decide to take. Do you take $10 million out and then see what you can do with that, or you take out $30.5 million? And is there a disaster waiting to happen for Colorado if they were to take the whole bite? I don't know, but that's what we're going to find out.
One other clarification on LIV Golf, which we discussed, is that the Golf Channel reporting that will no longer fund LIV after this season, which was kind of what was said a while ago, not with the cancellation of the tournament in New Orleans, like it might be over at any time.
No, yeah. And I think I made that pretty clear in talking about the CEO's statements, where he was very careful in his wording when the first story came out a couple of weeks ago. He's like, no, we're fully funded through the end of the year and we're planning on running our events. And I know there's been cancellations since even that, like there was, what was it, Mexico or something like that here, like in the last week. But no, he was very careful in saying we're fully funded through the end of the year. We're moving forward as planned and this and that. But what you picked up on pretty quickly was you didn't say anything after the end of this year. So yeah, when you set a budget, you set it through the end of 2026, right? and this is what we're going to fund through the end of the year. But what the Saudis have now said is there is nothing after 2026. So yeah, they're funded. They can technically run for the next 8 months to the degree that they're able to, but beyond that, they have no money that's officially backing them the way they had with the Saudis since their creation. So yeah, that's it's not like tomorrow they're shutting down, but the writing's on the wall that they're winding down unless some massive investor or group of investors come in to save them, which I look at that model and I go, why would anybody do that? There's no indication that you're going to make any money off of this thing.
Kim Coulter, I guarantee you it's a minimum 12% as to much as 18 to 20% when it comes to the
Redbird return. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some return, right? And it even says that in the article I was taking a little bit from earlier is there was that mention of, there are returns expected because if you're Redbird, what else are you doing this for? The kindness of your heart? Yeah.
SJL +6 asked the question. Kim, thanks for the answer. Paxton on LIV Golf, retired stockbroker on a lot of things. We appreciate all of you with it, Kyle Visser and many more. We got to get to the final part of the show.
Well, we can wait a second. So if you take out 20 million and then you have whatever that percentage is to return, you're not just paying back 20 million, you're paying back that. And the potential return that Redbird wants. So I don't know what the appetite's going to be for that and how many schools can take the biggest chunk right away.
It is for someone like myself who has been in a position of where you're not able to handle what you have spent. And you go through that. I do not want any debt at all, never anymore. I don't, other than paying for where I live. It's hard to get to that point, but man, when the money's there, it's juicy to take it out and use it if you need it. It is. But I swear to God, I have debit cards and that's it, because that means I have to have the money in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like that's just the rules you've had to put in place for yourself. I've not had to worry about that too much. I'm pretty smart about saving and doing all that stuff. But yeah, not everybody works the same or takes the same risks or has the appetite for such risks. But there's a lot of people that max out their credit cards and they look up after a couple of years and they're in a whole heap of trouble because that interest rate hits and
it's extraordinary.
All of a sudden, it's just a big old smack across the face. So.
All right. Thank you for those of you who watch us, YouTube or Twitter. Thank you to Rez. It's a great job as always, Garrett Ross and Andrew Valet. We're not done because we have to spin the wheel. Oh, more topics in there today. It looks like it.
What type of YouTube videos do you find yourself watching all the time? I'm kind of the same typical. I'll watch some wrestling YouTube videos. Like I'm interested in what Jim Cornette, old school manager, has to say on certain topics. I don't agree with him on everything, but I do find him interesting to listen to because he's got such an interesting perspective. So as a wrestling fan, that and a couple of wrestling podcasts I tune into. I watch like some college football clips here and there, but I really don't like watching too much because I don't want to like plant seeds in my head from other people. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, I appreciate certain conversations and things, but I also just kind of want to keep my thoughts to myself on stuff we're going to be talking about daily. So I don't really watch much in the way of college football, even though it's one of my favorite hobbies. So yeah, pro wrestling. There's a true crime podcast I've been listening to or watching for forever. That's actually, I'm kind of losing interest in it actually after a few years. And beyond that, nothing in particular.
I know mine's easy. I love watching music. I like watching videos, some of the, for example, there's some of these, I don't know what you call them, those who listen to music and critique it. And when they listen to Disturbed and the sound of, is that what it is?
Yeah, you are stuck on that song, man.
No, it's one of my favorite songs because it can get deep, and I need. But whether it's a whoever, and their minds are blown when they hear him start to sing that. But I also like some of the competition shows when they go, "You're not going to believe this," and it's some like little thing, girl, boy, that is about to sing, and they explode with his voice. That's amazing, and watch that and listen to that.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about reaction videos. That's what those are when people watch and react to videos.
Yeah.
So, like
the reactions on Disturbed and stuff, but the other ones is the competition.
Yeah,
like
you love that song. Like for like 6 years in a row,
it is.
You cite that song.
It's an amazing song.
So do you like the original version?
Yes, the sound of Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah,
yeah.
I prefer that.
I can listen to that thing and get me into a mode where I got to get focused and locked in. I'll listen to it 2 or 3 times and then shut it off.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely
I like to
listened
see
to that probably thousands of times. At
those
this point.
judges shows too, that when they have, like I said, someone that there's no way they're going to sing that, and then they just burst it out. All right, to the quizzes. First one, on this day in 2006, J.J. Watt, the Texans ignored the consensus pick of Reggie Bush to select which defensive player, number 1 overall, specifically citing the need to pressure Peyton Manning. Watt, Mario Williams, Jadeveon Clowney, and DeMeco Ryans, who's now the coach of the Texans. Craig, I know you know this one.
Well, I am just fascinated by how you insert words over player versus powerhouse.
I got my eyes checked today. What did I say?
You said player. You interchange words like
you are 20-something years away from understanding.
God, I hope not. Because I'm such a stickler for stuff like that.
I had an eye appointment with Dr. Diven today. My eyes have not changed, which might be a bad thing.
See, I don't even think it's your eyes. I think you just your brain inserts things.
Rez, who does an incredible job for us producing the show, if it's not popped out on the screen, then it's 50-50, and there was a delay on the laptop, so I sometimes just can't read it.
So it's Rez's
No.
fault.
Rez pops it out. I'm ready to go. The answer is...
Yeah, it's Mario Williams.
Mario Williams, yes.
Yeah, it's Mario Williams.
There you go.
Despite fans booing the pick, GM Charlie Casserly stood firm on the NC State product. Williams justified the move by racking up 97.5 career sacks and multiple Pro Bowls, proving that a long-term pass rusher was the missing piece the Texans needed to compete in the AFC South. And so, yeah, Mario Williams.
By the way, on other things on YouTube, Paxton said cooking shows, that's a pretty popular thing to watch.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, there's all sorts of things I come across that are interesting, like certain cooking reactions, or people going to restaurants and sitting down, like people go to Franklin's Barbecue. I've seen probably 10 different versions of people reacting that are like Australian, that they come to Texas and they have Franklin's Barbecue for the first time. So yeah, reaction videos are pretty damn popular. I don't know if there was any reaction videos to the Texans picking Mario Williams back in the day.
There was a bunch of bleep, bleep, bleep. Okay, quiz number 2. I'll wait for him to pop it out on the screen. Which iconic, thank you, Rez. Which iconic sports television program known for the phrase, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat made its debut on ABC in April 29, 1961.
So I guess we've kind of established that as of yesterday, the outside of my birth year questions, I'll try it first, but I'm going to say Wide World of Sports.
Yeah, absolutely. It was usually like Jim McKay, among others, the skier coming down a slalom and hits the gate. Absolutely Wide World of Sports. The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, and it was created by Roone Arledge, and also anchored by Jim McKay, as I mentioned, revolutionized TV by bringing the constant variety of sport, that's part of the same set, into American homes, pioneered up and close and personal athlete profiles, introduced U.S. audiences to events like Wimbledon, Tour de France, its highest rated moment ever, Daredevil, Evel Knievel, jumping 14 Greyhound buses in 1975.
Well, Evel Knievel made a ton of money on Netflix. I know that much. He would have had probably a couple stunts a year for $100 million and would have cleaned up doing that, much like we had the free climber here recently doing the live climb. Evel Knievel would have been an easy choice for Netflix.
I remember, and I don't know where I was. I don't remember the year, but he was going to jump over the Grand Canyon. Not like literally, but he was going to jump in a certain spot. All right. Thank you very much, Andrew, for those in the wheel. Now let's get to the poll questions from today. How do you feel about March Madness expanding to 76 teams? Look at this dominant 87%. Too many teams watered down. Good for you who voted for the 87%.
Yeah, and I understand where Tim's coming from on the need to do this. But like I kind of said to him, I think the fans understand there's a need for money, but why do we care about that? Like, why am I supposed to worry about their bank accounts? Like, I'm just a fan. I just want to see like the best product possible. And I think you had something that was pretty perfect. And now I just have to live with it, which is fine. But yeah, I think Like just for the fans to be told, like, you don't matter. We've got to make money. Like, we all know that, but just for it to be so blunt and in our face the way that it has become is just, it's just a tough pill to swallow. It's not a fun pill to swallow. So yeah, we get why they're doing it. But we just wish they didn't do it. So yeah, I'm in the too many teams. I think it waters things down. Is it the end of the world? No. Are we all going to adjust just fine? Yes. Is everybody going to still fill out their brackets? Of course. Are the ratings going to tank? Probably not. But my question to Tim, and I don't know if he ever really got around to answering it now that I think about it, but okay, if the money's such a need, and maybe he did in that the new contracts when they come up, this will all account for that. But okay, you needed to go to 68. You needed to go to 76. All right, why are we not going to 92?
They will.
When are we going to 100?
They probably will.
And
it
then
used
next
to be
thing you know,
16, so why not, right?
and somebody say, well, like, why do you care? It's like, because I just think it's stupid. Like, it's not even a matter of caring. It's just, I just think it's stupid. And I think at some point, add every damn team to the tournament. And then what are you going to do? Because you're still going to need money. So if you're not addressing like the root of the issue, then okay, let's have a 124 team college football playoff. But guess what? You'll still need money after that if you don't change the basics of how this all works to begin with. And like, that's where I have a problem as a fan, is this isn't the end of it. We're not going to get to 24 and be like, this is great. I can already hear the arguments for 32. Well, that's a nice, perfect number. And then it will be because they need money. And then 32, like, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but that's based on what we've seen at this point. That is what was going to happen.
Never enough.
Yeah.
That's why you're seeing private equity or capital. One more quiz, one more poll question to see the answers. Would you switch to a foldable iPhone Ultra? No. Team Classic screen. 70% yes. Take my money. 30%.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some foldable phones. I just now, I guess, saw that there's an iPhone version that's coming out. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not somebody that jumps on the brand new electronic right away. So I'll probably just stick with my old ass phone that's working just fine. I'm gonna have to replace the battery probably here pretty soon. But that's like $100 versus.
No, you're not. You're not doing it. Just got to.
What a weird reaction. Yes, I absolutely am. But nevertheless, I think that the iPhones. Yeah, it's good as is. But I'm intrigued. I'll see how it kind of plays and maybe check it out eventually.
All right, so there we go, Andrew. Thank you for the wheel, the quizzes, and the polls. One note: Chad Brando from Bearcat Journal just put this out there. He said that his sources are telling him that there was no knowledge of Brendan Sorsby gambling on events that were against NCAA rules inside the Cincinnati athletic department.
Well, and this is what I tried to explain in a video I did the other day, is that, yeah, Cincinnati might have been aware that he was betting, but what was he betting on? That's what all the Tech fans or the fans who are anti-Cincinnati want to immediately go, ooh, y'all are cooked. And it's like, if he was betting on UFC, guys, it doesn't matter. He can bet all the hell he wants to on UFC. If they were aware that he was betting, but the events weren't illegal, then it doesn't matter that Cincinnati knew about that. They were just given a heads up of like, hey, be aware, this dude's doing like thousands of microtransactions on a wide variety of sports. But if they knew that, yeah, he's betting on baseball and he's betting on the NFL and he's betting on stuff that is illegal, that's a different story. That's the part we don't know, though.
Yeah.
So they do have room to say, yeah, we didn't know because all we knew he was betting on UFC. But that's going to come out eventually. So we just have to be patient.
I mentioned I had texted a couple of guys who cover Cincinnati, and Chad's one of them. He's been a guest on the show. All right. Thank you, Rez. I know we run a little bit later than normal. Thank you very much, Andrew Valade and Garrett Ross, and also Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. We appreciate your time. This is the Smoak Show on 365 Sports, and good night. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Declaration of Deals is at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. And America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels in Waco.